Hey guys, and we're back with, I guess, the second episode of this beginner's guide. So I didn't realize it had been almost 2 weeks since I'd done the last one. I've been busy with work and live streaming. You guys have probably seen some of the live streams that we're working on the channel, and I just I just lost track of time, basically. So I apologize for that, but yeah, we're going to be doing another episode of this. So last time we went over the basics, I don't think we went over stances actually, but we went over the basics: growth, public order, income. By the way, this is your income, and if you scroll over it, you'll get, okay, so here's your treasury. This is how much your faction has currently. This is how much money you have to play with on the given turn. And over here you have predicted income. Now they say it's predicted because if once you end your turn, a faction comes over and starts raiding it, then this can go down. But for right now, if nothing happens, we're expected to make 1,702 gold. Certain factions, again, I know this is a general guide, but certain factions might use different terms for it. For most factions do use gold, though. I believe the vampire accounts use dark magic as their currency. The Chaos Warriors, if you own that DLC, they use basically Favor of the Gods as currency, but it's essentially gold, basically. And we're not going to go over this because this is High Elf specific. But if you click on Treasury here, this will actually give you an idea of where all of your money is coming from and where it's going. So right now we have background income. This is for most of the factions, the game just gives you, hey, here's 2,500 gold to start off with. Basically, at the beginning of every turn, here's 2,500 gold to, get you going. And then the rest of your money is made up from taxes, rating. Certain races use certain mechanics to help them make more money, but every race, with the exception of Horde races, use taxes. So High Elves use taxes, Empire, Britannia. Greenskins would use, they call it extorted income, but it's taxes. Dwarfs use taxes. Lizardmen, most of them use taxes, with the exception of hordes, because you can't tax a horde. And so it gives you a little breakdown: 2,500 gold for your background income, 520 from taxes, and your total income, this plus this, is 3,020. Now your income is only expected to be 1,702, because your army costs 1,318 for upkeep. And obviously the more your army grows, the more that number is going to go up, and this number is going to go down, unless you do something, build economic buildings to bolster your economy. And what I would recommend at the beginning of the campaign, or throughout the campaign, always, try to keep a balance between getting more growth in your provinces and building up your economy. And I think in this campaign, in this episode of the beginner's guide, we're actually going to do a few turns. I'm not going to play an entire campaign, but we'll just get an idea of, because I've been spending the last roughly hour and a half telling you guys how this game works, and in some cases it's better to show rather than tell. So yeah, we'll do a few turns and we'll play a little bit through the campaign, and we'll show you how, because I do still need to show you guys how battles work. So, but before we get into that, I do want to go over, okay, so here in your user interface, your UI, your heads-up display, whatever you want to call it, you've got a few different buildings. You can recruit heroes, which right now we can't recruit any heroes because we don't have each of these heroes. Certain heroes are locked behind certain buildings. So, for instance, this case, we have to build Handmaiden's Gallery to get the Handmaiden. For the Noble, we have to make the Elven Gardens. For the Mage, we have to build the Archive. For the Lore Master of Hoeth, we need to make the Grand Repository. So it gives you an idea of, if you want this, you have to build these buildings. So everything's kind of locked behind something. If we go into this button here, we can recruit lords, and it gives you an idea of what, and it has a few tabs. Now these are all High Elf specific, but for the sake of this video, we're still going to go over it. So you have legendary lords that are recruitable. Alistar the White Lion, or Alistair, I'm not sure, but he requires certain currency, a certain amount of currency, in order to recruit him. We have the money. This is how much he's going to cost in upkeep every single turn just for having him. And then he also requires influence, which again, High Elves use influence as a secondary currency, so they have gold and they have influence. And we'll go over how to get, since High Elves are one of the base races for Warhammer 2, we'll go over influence a little bit, but I kind of want to save influence for the High Elf specific race video, since again, this is just a general idea. Or this is just a general mechanics video, a general guide. But basically, if you get 30 influence, you can recruit Alistar the White Lion. And down here is his trait. He is a Lion of Crace, or Trace. I think it's Crace, I'm not sure. But the White Lion's pelt, worn by Lord Alistar, bears inspiring testament to his great heart and dauntless courage. And so it just gives you a little description of what he's all about. And then it goes into what that trait provides him. And every lord has a trait. It's not going to be Line of Trace, because that's Alistar's specific trait. But, so, first thing he does is provides upkeep reduction, minus 25%, for White Lions of Crace, War Lions, and Lion Chariot units. Now, War Lions and Lion Chariots are actually a DLC, or are actually DLC units. White Lions of Crace are not. White Lions are, if you have the base game, you can use White Lions. War Lions and Lion Chariots are locked behind, you have to own the Warden and the Paunch DLC to unlock those, which, it's worth it. It's, you definitely get a lot of value for most of the DLCs. Most of them are definitely worth the money. I would highly recommend getting the DLCs on sale, because, I mean, they can be a little bit pricey sometimes, but they are still an excellent value. And some are a little better than others, but for the most part, most of the DLCs are definitely worth the money that you pay for them, because you have to take into consideration, how long are you going to play those campaigns as those lords? Like, if you're spending $10 for something, but you're going to play it for 1,000 hours, yeah, you're definitely going to get your money's worth out of it. So, whereas if you buy something for $10 and you play it for 2 hours and give up, then maybe not. But that's neither here nor there. His second trait attribute, I guess, would be recruitment cost reduction, minus 30% for those same units. White Lions of Grace, War Lions, and Lion Chariot units for the Lord's Army. It says under brackets, Lord's Army, so that's specific for him, for his army. Ambush defense chance, it's 15% harder for enemy armies to catch him in an ambush, which for certain armies, being ambushed can be the absolute worst thing. So, and we'll get over, we'll go over how you can avoid being ambushed, and how you can also pull off an ambush. We'll go over that in a little bit. So, there's our Legendary Lord section. And you may have, if you get Confederations, this Legendary Lord list can grow to 2, 3, 4, 5, however many Legendary Lords there are in that race. Over here we have Archmages, which again are High Elf specific, but we'll just go over it. You have these guys are mages, or these girls are mages, so they have access to different lores of magic. Lore of Beasts, Lore of Shadows, Lore of Metal, Lore of Light, Lore of Heavens, Fire, Life, Death, and High Magic. And each lore has specific spells. Some are really, really good, some are mediocre, but, they all have something to offer. And these ones are immediately recruitable. They don't require any influence, but to be honest, with the High Elves, if you spend influence on lords and heroes, you can get better traits. So, Kadril, for instance, she's an Archmage of Beasts. Well, we're looking at all the Archmage of Beasts. And she gives Incendiary. She gets 100 extra charge bonus, 10 melee defense, 10 melee attack, weapon strength plus 100%, and enables flaming attack, so she's not bad. She does cost 60 influence for that, to recruit her though, in addition to the money and the upkeep. Limber, you see all the, so if you're spending influence, you're going to get better traits. Whereas if you don't spend influence, you're going to get inhibited. Magic resistance 10% local enemy armies. So it's going to be harder for her to dish out damage when she's using spells by 10%. Incompetent, income from all buildings minus 10%. She's actually going to lose us money just for having her in a local province. So it may not be worth it to recruit her. And same thing with princes. We have Squishy. He's going to be a little bit less tanky. He doesn't have as much melee defense, so he's not going to stand up as much in a fight. His name is Caval. That's funny. Corhian, Scornful, Leadership, minus 10% for White Lions of Cray, Sword Masters of Hoeth, and Phoenix Guard. Those are all units that you might have in your front line, and their leadership is going to be less because he is their commander. So they're going to be more likely to break under pressure. So he may not be worth it to recruit. Whereas this guy, Belhar Thor, he is unbreakable, which means his leadership will never go down and he will never rout in battle. So the enemy will literally have to kill him to get rid of him. So he doesn't run away, he just stands there until either the enemy dies or he dies, whichever happens first. physical resistance 20%, which means it's going to be a lot harder for the enemy to kill him. So he would be a pretty good tank. You can stick him right in the middle of an enemy formation and he's gonna die 20% slower than anyone who doesn't have this trait. Vigorous, he gets ward save. Ward save is basically damage resistance. If something was going to attack you for 100 damage, ward save 15% takes 15% of that damage away. So in the event of a successful hit, they would only do 85 damage to you. So again, it would be 15% harder for the enemy to kill him, and that's any kind of damage, whether it be magic, missile, physical, anything. Any kind of damage that's coming his way is going to be reduced by 15%. So again, he would be a pretty good tank, but he also costs 60 influence to recruit. So you have to take things like that into consideration. Assyrian gets Hale and Hardy physical resistance, 5%. Obviously, I'd go for this one if I had the influence. But if I didn't, it might be, if I'm in a bind and I only have 15 influence to spare, yeah, he's not bad. Elusive, he gets extra speed, melee defense. So basically for the high elves, if you're able to spend influence, you'll get better generals. You'll get better heroes. Whereas if you don't, you're going to have to put up with heroes and lords that aren't necessarily as good as they can be. But there can be situations where recruiting, a hero or a lord that has a negative trait isn't necessarily as bad as it could be. For her, she gives Werna, a princess, gives minus 5% speed to the lord's army. So if you have fast units, they're going to be 5% slower, which may or may not be the end of the world. You have to kind of pick and choose. You have to kind of make a call. You have to weigh certain things. Slovenly upkeep is actually 10% higher for archers, Lotharian Sea Guard, and Illyrian Reaver units. So those units are 10% more expensive in her army. But let's just say she was using dragons. Those dragons are going to be the same price. So it may not be that bad to recruit her and give her a dragon army. So there are certain cases where you can get a lord that's quote-unquote bad, but it's not the end of the world. So, and another thing to note, down here it says each additional lord recruited will increase your total army upkeep by 2%, and that tacks on. The more armies that you recruit, that keeps going. So the first extra army you recruit after your first one, so your second army, your upkeep for all of your armies goes up by 2%. And that is on a sliding scale based on what difficulty rating you're on. We're on normal, and so for instance for easy it only goes up by 1%. For normal it goes up 2%. For hard it goes up to 7%, I believe, and then I haven't played very hard difficulty in so long, but I know legendary difficulty increases it by 15% for every additional army you recruit. And I believe very hard is the same thing, I believe. So down here it says your total army upkeep is estimated to increase by 244. That's not too bad, but then again we're only paying 2% extra. Now if we were on legendary, it would be a lot more than that. It would be 7 times as much. So our army upkeep would go up by about 1,500 gold, roughly. So we'd probably be making either next to no money, or we might even be in the negative. So if, you know, if you're getting ready to recruit another army, you definitely want to keep an eye on your income and make sure that you can actually manage the cost of that army. You might have to do some quick math and see, okay, can I afford to have to recruit Drylin, the princess, and can I actually afford to give her an army? So, just certain things you have to take into consideration. And one thing we didn't go into last episode, I believe, was, okay, so we went over recruiting lords. If you click on this button here, Garrison Details, this gives you an idea of, here are the units that are in the event that Lothern comes under attack and Tyrion isn't sitting inside the settlement to protect it. These are what units are available at the moment to defend Lothern. So you've got 2 Swordmasters of Hoeth, which are a tier 4 infantry unit, so they're pretty good. They're armored, they have a lot of armor. They have armor piercing, so all their melee attack is going to cut through armor. They're anti-infantry, so last episode we went over anti-infantry means they get a bonus to melee attack, weapon strength, and I believe charge bonus to if they're fighting infantry, anything smaller than a horse. So they'll be good at dealing more damage to infantry. And down here, deflect shots. These guys carry a great sword, so it gives you an idea of what kind of infantry they are. They carry a great sword, which these guys kind of swing their swords in the air and deflect shots, sort of. So while they don't have a shield, they do have a chance of blocking missiles, but just by swinging their swords around. And down here, if you scroll over this, even though it says shielded, it's not technically a shield, but this unit has a shield, quote unquote, and will block 20% of all small arms missile fire hitting it from the front. So if the enemy fires 100 arrows into this unit, it can block 20% of those missiles, so only 80 of them will hit. And down here we have Lothern Sea Guard. These guys are anti-large, so if anything like cavalry is coming at them, they'll withstand a charge a little bit better. And the charge defense is going to be will be negated if they're just running right into them. So they'll do more damage against cavalry, anything larger than a man, basically. So anything horse size and up. And then we have basic archers down here, and then we have silver helms. So these are anti-infantry cavalry, which are armored. They don't have shields, so if something's shooting at them, there's no chance that they're going to block it. They're just going to receive that damage. And if it's armor-piercing damage, it'll cut through their armor. So be careful with these guys. But in the event that Lothern does get taken, these guys can try to protect the city as best they can. So, and over here we have our building browser. This gives us an idea of, here's everything that you can build. And we'll go over different categories. So we have the port category. It's just, if it's a coastal settlement, you can build a port, which in Lothern's case, it's a special port. So it gives, at tier 1, Straits of Lothern gives 300 income and 10 growth. And then we have to build the main settlement building up to tier 3, and then we can build the harbor of Lothern. And it gives us 600 income, 20 growth, additional tradable resources produced 5% faction-wide. So any resources that you're producing, let's say you're producing 100 wood that you can trade. Now, thanks to the Harbor of Lothern, you now produce 105. And it also gives recruit rank +1 for Lothern Sea Guard units. Every Lothern Sea Guard unit that you recruit in the province of Eataine, of this specific province, will have 1 extra recruit rank, 1 extra chevron. And we'll go over recruit ranks, or we'll go over unit ranks later on. And it also unlocks the recruitment of Lothern Sea Guard. So there are certain buildings that unlock recruitment of certain units, and it'll actually show you the building, and it'll show whatever unit here. This is what it unlocks the recruitment of. And then at tier 5, once we build Lothern all the way up to Aspired Citadel, we can get Gates of Lothern. 1,000 income generated, which is a lot of money. Growth +30, additional tradable resources produced, 10% extra faction-wide, and recruit rank +4 for Lothern Sea Guard units. It doesn't say enables recruitment or unlocks recruitment because it's already done at tier 3. So, but it gives you 4 extra recruit ranks for Lothern Sea Guard units. And again, we'll go over ranks pretty soon. And then you have your landmark category. If the region has a landmark, it'll be shown here. If it doesn't, then this won't even show up. Also, if the region isn't a port region, port obviously won't show up because it won't apply. But for landmarks, we have at tier 5, again, we can build the Court of the Phoenix King, which is a Lothern landmark. And it gives influence cost -10% for intrigue at court actions. We'll go into that at when we do the High Elf specific video. And then it gives public order +10, which is just for the province. Unless it says, for instance, right underneath it, it says Lord Recruit Rank +2 faction wide in brackets. If it doesn't say public order +10 and then faction wide underneath it in brackets, it's just for the province. It's just for, or the amount of the province that you own. So if you own all 4, it goes for the whole province. If you only have 2, it only goes for the 2 regions that you own. And then underneath it we have, and going back to the Lord Recruit Rank +2, so for instance, if right now we don't have the Court of the Phoenix King. So we'll take a look at Recruit Lord. We can only get lords at level 1. If we built the Court of the Phoenix King, these would show up at tier 3, or at level 3. And so certain buildings do increase your Lord Recruit rank, so those are obviously good buildings to build because you can give your lords more skills right after you train them, so they don't have to fight as many battles to get better. They're already being recruited at higher quality. So those are good buildings to watch out for. And going back into it, underneath it says here capacity +1 for nobles. So certain buildings give you more capacity for recruiting different heroes. And here recruit rank +2 for nobles, in brackets faction wide. Again, if it doesn't say faction wide, it only applies to that province. So just keep an eye on that. And going back to that capacity, if we go to, well, it doesn't, right now it's not going to let us click on any of these heroes, but we'll go back into this once we play a little more into the campaign and we get built up, and I can actually show you, what I'm about to be talking about. But if we clicked on Noble, for instance, just imagine that we clicked on Noble. it would give us a screen just like the Lord Recruit screen, but for heroes. If we click on Noble, it'll give us a list of here are the nobles that are available right now for recruitment and their specific traits, if they have a influence cost, and around here there would be a it might say, let's just say 0/1. The 0 would be you currently have no heroes, and then the 1 would be here's your current capacity. So the more buildings you build that say, hey, this increases the capacity for X hero, you can start recruiting more, which is obviously a good thing. And
behold, Elves of beauty.
So going back to our building browser, you'll notice that if you looked at this almost on a graph with like an X and Y, with X and Y axes, you would see, okay, this goes up to tier 2, so we can't build the grazing meadows, the cavalry building, until we get up to tier 2. And it maxes out at tier 3 with the farrier for the elven cavalry. Lothern maxes out at tier 5 because it's a major settlement, it's a major capital. All the minor settlements here, they all max out at tier 3. There is no tier 4 or 5. So when you're planning out how do I want to set up my buildings, what you might want to do is, if you're in a province that has a provincial capital like Lothern and various minor settlements, you might want to put, say I want to recruit the White Lions, the War Lions of Crace, and all these units. I might not want to put it in Lothern because it's only going, you can build it at tier 3 and it stops at tier 3. So there's no tier 4 upgrade, there's no tier 5 upgrade. So building it in a major settlement might be kind of a waste unless you have nothing left to build in your major settlement, which isn't going to happen very often, but it can happen. But for another example, the Elven Forge, you can't start building it until you get to tier 3, and then it maxes out at tier 4 with the Ithelmar Smith. So, and let's say you want to recruit chariots, like the Ithelmar Chariots and the Lion Chariots of Crace. If you build the Elven Forge in a minor settlement, you're not going to be able to upgrade it to the tier 4 level because minor settlements stop at tier 3. So you might want to build this in Lothern. And same thing with the mage buildings. It goes all the way up to tier 5, so you probably want to put it in your provincial capital. And so yeah, just certain things you have to take into consideration. So when you're planning out your buildings, you can take a look at your building browser and do kind of a, just have a plan in mind. You don't necessarily have to, but just know that, for instance, if you build this in Lothern and it's your last available build slot, and then you decide, oh wait, no, I really need the Handmaidens Gallery, which is also a DLC specific building. You have to own the Queen and the Crone DLC in order to build this building and have these 2 units, the Sisters of Avalorn and the Handmaiden Hero. So just food for thought. But let's say you put the Grove in Lothern and it was, like I said, it was your last available build slot, and then you decide, oh wait, I need the Dragon's Lair. Now you're going to have to tear that down and then build it. So it'll cost you the extra 3,000 that it costs to construct it, and however many turns, in this case 3. So you essentially wasted 3 turns and 3,000 gold because you didn't plan ahead with your buildings. So just give it a little bit of forethought and try to plan out your buildings as best you can. There are certain situations where you're in a bind and you just, oh, okay, well, I have to build this here. I'll just suck up the extra cost. So, yeah, sometimes stuff happens. But, yeah, a little bit of forethought and just, thinking ahead can save you a lot of money and a lot of headaches, basically. And now we're going to go into this over here. So, yeah, we'll start off with objectives. Okay, so, and this gives us an idea of, okay, there's 2 options here. One is short campaign victory and one is long campaign victory. These are the victory conditions for, for your campaign. This is all the stuff you have to do to win the game, basically. So we'll look at short campaign victory first. Short campaign victory requires us to control all provinces of Ulthuan, so all of this, either by direct ownership, meaning they all turn to your banner, or through vassals and military allies, and we'll go over that later on. So we have to control Eataine, which we don't control the entire province yet because these guys still own 2 regions. Ivris, which is right next door to us. Safari, which is right next door on the inner ring of Ulthuan. Kothic, which is about up here on the outer ring. Avalorn, which is right around here. Crace, which is up here. Nagarath, which is over here. Illyrian, which is here. Tirnok, which is right here. Calidor, which is right next door to us. And then the various gates. You have the Eagle Gate, the Griffin Gate, the Unicorn Gate, and the Phoenix Gate. These are the gates that this is talking about. And these are settlements that you can't build anything in. It's essentially a fort, basically. And there are 4, like the game was saying. There's the Eagle Gate. We can't see the other ones, but there's one right here, there's one right here, and one right here. These guard the valleys that are going in from the outer ring of Ulthuan to the inner ring. So this is kind of like the first line of defense for the inner ring of Ulthuan. Anything coming to attack Avalorn has to go through the Phoenix Gate, I believe it is. And then there's the Eagle Gate. I believe that's the Griffin Gate and the Unicorn Gate, but I could be wrong. It could be the other way around. But, so for short campaign victory, you have to own all of Ulthuan. And then it says destroy the following factions. You have to destroy the entire faction of Nagarond and the Cult of Pleasure, which are Dark Elf factions. High Elves and Dark Elves are eternal enemies, basically. And they won't stop until one of them's dead. So you have to make sure, if you're playing as the High Elves, you have to make sure that the Dark Elves are dead. You have to control any 8 of the following settlements, either by, again, direct ownership or through vassals and military allies. Corone, which is the capital city of the main Bretonnian faction, which is all the way up here. Corone would be right here. and then Altdorf. Oh yeah, that's right. I can click on it and it shows Altdorf, Castle Drakenhof, the Oak of Ages. So you have to control 8 of those settlements to get that little tick on your campaign victory. Ensure that 2 of the following buildings have been constructed: Sacred Flame of Assyrian and the Gates of Lothern. The Sacred, and we'll go over the Sacred Flame of Assyrian. The Gates of Lothern, though, is right here. So you have to get Lothern up to tier 5, and then build that. And you have to build both of those buildings, 2 of the following buildings. Continue to expand your territory, ready for the arrival of Archaon the Everchosen. Archaon the Everchosen is the faction leader of the Warriors of Chaos faction, and the reason this is checked off, ensure that Archaon the Everchosen is in a wounded state, is because at turn 1, Chaos has not shown up yet. Chaos shows up when, I believe it's around turn 100, but Chaos can start showing up a little bit sooner, depending on how strong your empire is. Now, for instance, like if you own all of Ulthuan and you're already making your way up through Nagaroth, then they might show up a little bit sooner than if at turn 100 you're still fighting Safari for whatever reason and you haven't expanded past Eatane. But he does show up eventually. He's sort of like your in-game crisis, basically, for he's the game's in-game crisis. So when he shows up, it's basically the entire world's job to kind of put him down. So that's everything you need for short campaign victory. Now for long campaign victory, again, we have to control all of Ulthuan. Destroy, now we have a couple extra factions that we need to kill off. We need to destroy Nagaron and Cult of Pleasure like normal, and then Harganeth, which is all the way up here. It's another Dark Elf faction, and the Blessed Dread. It's another Dark Elf faction. Like I said, High Elves and Dark Elves hate each other with a bloody passion, so they won't stop until either one of them, until they're all dead, basically. And now we have to control any 17 of the following settlements. Before it only said 8. So if you're going for long campaign victory, it's obviously going to take you longer. Of any of these settlements, we already own Lothern, so we only need to capture 16 more. Continue to ensure that 2 of the, so this is the same, continue to expand your territory, that's always the same. And then ensure that Archaon the Everchosen is in a wounded state. Again, Archaon hasn't shown up yet, so he's technically quote-unquote wounded. So there's your victory objectives. And we'll go into diplomacy next. So diplomacy-wise, all the races in the game are set up under certain tabs. So there's High Elves, these are all the High Elves that we know. Dark Elves, these are all the Dark Elves that we know. Greenskins, these are all the Greenskins that we know. And rogue armies they don't have well, some rogue armies can capture settlements. Some of them, like the freebooters of Port Royal, are basically just pirates. They just hang around here and just kind of patrol around, and if they catch wind of you when you're crossing the ocean, they can declare war on you and attack you. And they can be very strong. Their armies are typically in-game units, like tier 4 and tier 5 units. So be careful if you're running around with tier 1 and tier units and you run into one of them. You're going to be hard-pressed to get out of it. And with diplomacy, okay, so you have all the races, and then you have a little button here that says group by race. Click on it, And, well, it doesn't, in this case it didn't change anything, but sort by name, it'll go alphabetically down, so from Tiranoc all the way down to Avalorn, and then sort by name up, it'll start at A and go all the way down to Tiranoc. Strength rank, you can sort it by how strong they are. So in ascending order, Scourge of Cain is strength rank 9. They're significantly stronger than us, which our strength rank is currently 35. So out of all of the races in the game, basically, we are the 35th strongest. These guys are the 9th. And these guys are the 10th, 21st, 37th, 64th. So Avalorn is weaker than us. Tiranoc is, Calador is, Saphri is, and Illyrian is. Illyrian is pretty weak. And you can also group it by how many settlements do they own. Freebooters, this little icon just denotes that it's a horde. So they just wander around, kind of like Oregon trailing their way around the game, or around the campaign map. And if they can occupy settlements, and they do, then this will change to the number of settlements that they have. Avalorn controls 1, Cult of Excess has 2, Calador has 2, Broken Axe has 3, yada yada yada, all the way down. And that's just the end of that. And we can also sort it again. This is, on the flip side, starts off with this guy owns the most, and then these guys own the least. You can sort it by what treaties you have with anybody. Like, right now, we don't have any treaties with anybody except for Tiranoc, who we have a non-aggression pact with, and Cult of Excess, where it technically counts as a treaty that we're at war with them. Basically, there's been some diplomatic, quote-unquote, conversation between us, between our two factions. And that conversation was, I don't like you, I'm going to declare war on you. So, every time you start your campaign, I would recommend clicking into diplomacy and seeing who are you at war with. You may start off with military allies, and in which case it'll show up here. You may start off with trade partners, which will show up here. You may start off, and you're going to start off at war with somebody, and it'll show up here. And then you may start off with the defensive alliance. I can't remember if any factions start off with a defensive alliance. I know some of them do have military allies, but I can't remember about defensive. But it'll all show up here. And here you have, well, we'll go over reliability in a second. And we can sort in descending order, basically. We have a war here, we have an non-aggression pact here, and then nothing, 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 nothing. War target. Now, if you have an alliance with somebody, say we're allied with Scourge of Cain, somehow, since they're Dark Elves and they don't like us. But let's just say, actually no, let's say we have an alliance, a defensive alliance with Tiranoc, and we're both at war with Cult of Excess. It's very important if you want to set war coordination targets, you have to be at war with the same faction. So there would be a little button that would pop up that would basically say, hey, you can ask them to attack something, like an army or a settlement. You can ask them, hey, I want you to attack Cult of Excess at Angerial and try to take out Arathar. And it would show up here. So these buttons would be lit up.
At your service.
So you'd be able to set a war coordination target, which you would click on this and then click on whatever settlement you wanted them to take. So if you wanted them to take Tower of Lycian, you would click on this, click on Tower of Lycian, and then I believe it shows, I don't do it very often because I don't get very many allies, but it would show like crosshairs, I believe, on the Tower of Lycian. And I think I'll actually try to get an alliance in this campaign so I can show you guys a little bit more about it, because it can be kind of confusing. And then here's where you clear your war coordination target, so you can, if you change your mind and say, oh well, if you guys take that, then I can't take it, so never mind, and then you can clear it. And then if you if you want to, if you ask them to attack something a while back and you can't remember how that settlement, what you asked them to attack, you can click on that and it'll, if there is a war coordination target, it'll zoom to that settlement or that army. So, and we have the trade category. If we can trade, it'll show up here. If we are trading, which we don't have any trade agreements right now, but actually, for the sake of explanation, let me show you.
Your wit and wisdom will be a welcome distraction.
So, you would just click on Initiate Diplomacy.
Welcome to the court of the Phoenix King.
They'll greet you. If they like you, their greeting will be a little bit nicer than if they don't like you, obviously. It shows current treaties, and we'll show your offers and your demands in a second. Okay, so click on Add Offer Demand. Up here, it'll give you the options for, this is what you can do in diplomacy. We can ask for a trade agreement. After signing a trade agreement, a trade route will link your capitals. The more resources you own, the higher the chance this faction will sign the treaty. And for a trade route to be established, you have to either you have to see their capital, and you have to be able to travel there through your own territory, either by road or by sea. So in this case, a sea trade route will link your two capitals. So basically we both own ports, so we can trade that way. And it shows your predicted income per turn, and here, where some of these are yellow and some of these are orange, this is your likelihood of it actually working out. So if we clicked on trade agreement, which it says likelihood of success moderate, click on trade agreement, we're offering all of this. We'll only be exporting tariffs, and if there were other trade goods that we provided, they would show up here, and it shows our predicted income. And we're demanding that they trade this with us, so basically we're just trading tariffs back and forth. So we're making 60 gold from that. And then it says likelihood of success moderate. So if we click on this, propose offer,
it shall be done.
And they accepted it. So, and cool thing with the High Elves is whenever they sign a trade agreement, and this is unique to the High Elves, they actually get visibility over that faction and everything around them. So before we couldn't see the Griffin Gate, but now we can see it and we know that Tiranoc owns it. So this can also be helpful for kind of scouting around, like, oh, I want to see what's around Ulthuan. I want to see what's going on over here. Let's go talk to Safari and see if we can get a deal going.
I'm listening.
And so we were talking about trade. If you can trade with somebody, this will show up as unfilled in, basically as blank. But it's we can trade. If it has that red line through it, we can't trade with them, because first of all, we can't see their capital, I don't believe. And Yeah, no, we can't see their capital. We know of them. We know they exist, but we just can't see them, and we don't have any links to them either via road or trade. Or, sorry, not trade. Either via road or by sea. So we just can't get to them. And yeah, obviously this red line through here means we can't trade. You can't trade with somebody you're at war with. So that's another reason we can't trade with them. Horde factions, if they have that horde right there, they can't trade. However, if they're a horde and then they occupy a settlement, then you can trade with them as long as, again, you are linked by either roads or by sea. And if you are trading with somebody, it'll show green here, filled in green, and then it'll give you an idea of here's what you're exporting and here's your income. And it'll also tell you here's what you're importing. And over here it shows here's every faction that you know of, here's how they feel about you. Tiranoc is happy with us because of treaties with Tiranoc gives us extra 25 relation. Ruler's tolerance to Eatane gives us 20. So they're more likely to deal with us, and our relationship is improving. Right now it's at 15. It's expected to go up to 45 over time. So the more likely the more someone likes you, the more likely they are to deal with you, basically. Just like in real life. If someone doesn't like you, they're probably not going to deal with you unless they absolutely have to. And there are cases where if someone who doesn't like you but is put into a certain position might deal with you for the sake of survival, but we'll go over that. Yeah, we'll go over that later on. And then we have these guys are neutral towards us. We have nothing helping our relationship or hurting our relationship. These guys, however, relations, they approve that we trespassed against Safari in the past, basically. Before the campaign started, we must have run into their territory or something. And in the past, before the campaign started, we must have been fighting a war against them. So those are both things that they like. Things that they don't like, though, they condemn aversion. High Elves and Dark Elves have an aversion towards each other because they're enemies. So that gives us minus 60 relation. Sorry. Excuse me. And we're at war with them, so that's causing minus 30 relation. Gifts given to Calador. At one point we gave a gift to Calador before the campaign ended, or before the campaign began. And same thing with Illyrian, so they don't really like us. So right now we have plus 7 and minus 98. So currently our attitude is minus 30 and is expected to go down to minus 91 unless we do something to change that. And Broken Axe, well, you guys can read. Trespasses against Safari, yada yada yada, and all that, all the way down. And you can toggle it from who likes us down to who hates us, or who hates us down to who likes us. So you can change stuff around. And
I'm waiting.
So going into diplomacy again.
The Phoenix King welcomes all, cultured or otherwise.
If you, let's say we wanted to get military access, which, excuse me, essentially, I have to clear my throat all the time. Essentially, military access means, well, military access removes the diplomatic penalty for trespassing on another faction's territory. If you go into someone's territory and you do not have military access, you will incur a trespassing penalty of, I think it's minus 5, I think. So it'll hurt your relation with them by about 5, or by a certain amount. Unless you have a military access treaty, which basically says their armies can wander onto your territory, and your armies can go through their territory. And it's all hunky-dory. So if, let's just say, these guys wanted to attack Angerial, they might have to go through our territory. So they might ask us, hey, can we get military access so we can go wreck these guys for you? And we'd say, yeah, sure. Hey, if you're going to come help us out, yeah, sure. Go ahead. You might not necessarily want to give a faction military access if you don't trust them, basically. So you have to kind of decide who you want to give military access to and who you don't. So you have to kind of pick and choose. You have to be able to make the best decision you can based on that. But let's just say, yeah, let's try to get a military access treaty with them. Let's propose it.
Gladly.
They accept it. And certain difficulty levels make it harder to do diplomacy with factions sometimes. So, for instance, like right now we're playing on normal, so the AI is more willing to deal with us. On, for instance, on legendary, if I was playing on legendary, they might not make that deal, or they might, they might be willing to make that deal, but only if we pay them. So certain difficulties can affect diplomacy. And then you have defensive alliance. Defensive allies are sworn to protect each other if war is declared on one of them. It is useful to be on friendly terms with a faction before requesting an alliance. We're on friendly terms, but not quite friendly enough. Now, defensive alliance is if we have a defensive alliance and one of the Dark Elf factions declares war on them and attacks them, then they'll send us a message saying, hey, quick, help. Someone's attacking me, can you help me out? And we have the option to either join the war on their side or break the alliance, which is pretty bad. We'll go over that in a second. And then, so defensive alliance is if either one of you are declared war on, then you can call the other one in. And they can either come to help you, or they can not, and then it breaks the alliance. Military alliance, military allies are sworn to support each other if attacked or attacking another lord or race. This is the strongest form of treaty. When signed, it replaces the defensive alliance. So, defensive alliance only counts if you are attacked or the other faction is attacked. Sorry, I had to clear my throat again, and I know for some of you it's probably distracting. So I just shut off the mic for a second. So, defensive alliance only counts if you or the faction that you have a defensive alliance with are attacked. And then you can call the other one in. And then they have the option to join or not. And not joining breaks the alliance. Military alliance is, it doesn't matter if you are the one doing the attacking or you're the one being attacked. And it goes the same for the other person. It doesn't matter if they're being attacked or attacking another race or faction, then they'll still call you in. They'll still ask you, hey, we're going to war with the Cult of Pleasure. Do you want to come? And then we'll have the option to say yay or nay. And then down here, there's join Confederation. Ask the other faction to join your Confederation. If you are strong enough and they accept your offer, their faction will be assimilated into your own. Their settlements will become yours, as may some of their armies. It's actually all of their armies. You get everything. Be aware that depending on the balance of the assets you acquire, your income may be adversely affected. Now, it says may be adversely affected. I'm going to say it will be adversely affected. If you only have enough money to afford one army, and you ask a faction that has 4 armies to join yours, and they, for whatever reason, accept it, you're suddenly paying for 5 armies. So, and all the upkeep increases that entails. So, but you'll get, if we ask them to confederate with us, or in this case it's a demand, we're demanding them, hey, join us. Then we would get White Peak. We would get the settlements of White Peak, Tor, and Rock, and the Griffin Gate. So we would get these 3 settlements, and we would get this army. And then this would be applied. Confederation Penalty. Turns remaining, it just says it runs for 5 turns, basically. The sudden expansion of territory has caused instability throughout the land. You know, suddenly your territory expands. People are like, whoa, what's going on? So it gives you diplomatic relations minus 40 with High Elves. So for 5 turns after that, doing any diplomacy with High Elves is going to be a lot harder. And then you have Public Order minus 8, and that's going to be faction-wide. It doesn't say faction-wide, but it is faction-wide. So all of your settlements, like Tor and Rock, is their public order is 0, and it's changing by minus 1. That would go down to minus 9. So it would suffer revolt faster, basically. And then it also tells us that, and in 5 turns that public order would go away. It would just go back to normal. It just, basically the thought behind it is Confederation, it kind of like freaks people out for about 5 turns. It freaks out like your empire for about 5 turns, and freaks out all the High Elves around you for 5 turns. Like, whoa, what happened? Eatane just got way bigger. What happened? I'm not so sure about this. And then after 5 turns, everybody just kind of calms down a little bit. So everything goes back to normal. And then in orange, kind of yellowy orange, it tells us further confederations will not be possible while this is in effect. So you can't, we can't, for instance, take Tiranoc into our confederation and then next turn go over to Illyrian and say, hey, we just confederated Tiranoc. Do you want to join us too? So you can't do that for 5 turns, basically. And going back to this menu, we can, if we have trade agreements with people, you can, okay, so these are their trade partners. They have a trade agreement with Nagarath. Now, if we want to weaken a faction, or, you know, for whatever reason we decide, hey, we don't want you guys trading with Nagarath, we can click that. And we will demand that they not trade with Nagarath anymore. And then if we have any trade agreements aside from them, because they don't count in this case. Now, if, say we were trading with Avalorn, Avalorn would show up here, and we could offer to stop trade with Avalorn for them to stop trading with Nagarath, and then we could select it. They might actually do that. So, proposed the offer, but they rejected it. They said, no, we don't want to. So, we'll go back to
Phoenix
diplomacy.
King welcomes
I exited
all,
out of it accidentally.
cultured or otherwise.
Now, we can consider canceling a treaty that is not in your best interest. However, there will be a diplomatic relations penalty for doing so. Also, doing so prematurely may be considered treachery. Let's go into that. So we'll click on Cancel Non-Aggression Pact. In Non-Aggression Pact, it gives us a warning. Do you want to end your Non-Aggression Pact with this faction? Ending a treaty shortly after signing it is considered an act of treachery and will lower your reliability rating. turns remaining 10. So you may be wondering, hey, we're only on turn 1. We didn't sign any treaties yet. What do you mean? How is this an act of treachery? Any treaties that you have at the beginning of the campaign are considered treaties that you signed. Basically, you just got that non-aggression pact, or you just declared war on that faction. Any wars that you're in at the beginning of the campaign, you are considered to be the aggressor in. And if we cancel this treaty, our reliability here is going to go from very high, it could go all the way down to very low, which, surprise, surprise, a faction that is considered not very reliable, other factions aren't going to be as likely to do any deals with them because, well, why would they want to do any deals with you? You're not considered reliable. You're not, you don't stand behind your word, basically. Whereas right now we're very high reliability. So you want to try to keep your reliability as high as you possibly can. If it goes down from very high to high, it's not that big of a deal because it's still in the green, basically. If it goes down to medium, you might have some trouble. If it goes down to low, you're going to have more trouble. And if it goes into very low, then factions that, for instance, may not have went to war with you when your reliability was very high might actually look at you and say, oh, well, this guy's not reliable. He might, we have a non-aggression pact with him, but hey, he's already canceled one treaty. What's going to stop him from attacking us? So they might go ahead and attack you. They might, break their non-aggression pact and then attack you. So be careful with doing anything like this. Like if it says, hey, you have to wait 10 turns, I would advise you wait 10 turns. Or if it goes down to, turns remaining 1, sometimes it's not that big of a deal. But, for instance, well, in this case, yeah, we're not going to do that. But we can cancel a trade agreement, which, again, we just signed that trade agreement a few minutes ago. So if we did that, it would be an act of treachery. So we don't want to do that either. Cancel military access, again, same thing. And down here, you have the option of either demanding payment, and it tells you they're pretty weak economically. It gives you the minimum value you can ask for or demand, and the maximum you can ask for. So if we go all the way over here, it won't go past 200 or 2,000. If we go all the way down here, you can't ask for anything less than 300. 300 is the bare minimum you can ask for. 2,000 is the minimum you can ask for currently. This number can go up. And so let's say we demand 300 gold. So we're demanding payments. We're not giving them anything in return, so it is considered a gift. And we'll propose it.
Impossible.
And they don't want to pay us. Sometimes this actually works. So, and sometimes it can help you, like if we're in a bind financially, like, oh my god, this is absolute zero, and we're not making anything per turn either. I need to, essentially beg people for money. You can actually make that happen. It sounds stupid, but sometimes you can
I bid you welcome to the court.
basically extort the other factions for money. So, or you can ask them for money, depending on how you want to look at it. Conversely, you can also offer payment. Now, we can offer a small gift, which is considered, 461 gold is considered a small gift. We can offer a medium gift, which is 1,847 gold is considered a medium gift. If we click on small gift and click check, then we're offering 461 gold as a gift. And you can't adjust it like you adjust the demand. So that's just however much we want to give them. And I mean, they would take this. Likelihood of success is high. Like, obviously they'll take it. But I don't really want to do that. Or we could do... Well, no, you can't say, hey, I'll pay you 461 gold if you pay me 500. You can't do that. But what you can do is, hey, I'll give you 461 gold if you give me a defensive alliance. And it might help if you have a faction that is kind of on the fence, like, oh, I don't know if I want to sign a military alliance with Tyrion, with Eataine. I don't want to sign it for free. But maybe if he... Okay, yeah, so you actually can. It's just, if you're only offering money, you can't adjust it. But if you're offering something, then you can adjust it. Because it treats it like you're haggling, basically. Like, well, you wouldn't do this for free. What if I pay you 300 gold, perhaps? Then they might do it. And then you click on it and see how likely they are to accept it. And it says likelihood of success low, so I'm pretty sure I know what's going to happen.
No.
Yeah, they said no. If it says the likelihood of success is low, I wouldn't even bother. Like, if you really want something to happen, you can maybe offer that thing you want to happen, and maybe offer a little bit of money. Like, if I wanted them to confederate with me, I could demand Confederation, which right now likelihood of success is low, and I can go to add offer demand, go to payments, and say, well, what if I offer you all of my cash? And that likelihood of success might go up to moderate, or it might even go up to high. So they might go, well, I didn't want to confederate with you before, but since you're gonna pay me, fine, we'll go ahead and do that now. So, certain diplomatic deals, you can kind of sweeten the pot by throwing money at them. So if you really want something to happen, or if you quote-unquote need something to happen, you can, if you have a lot of money laying around, you can throw money at them to kind of sweeten the deal and get it to happen. And also, each faction has certain traits that will, or certain things that will influence, for instance, we have their strength rank is 81. Our strength rank is 85, so we're considered a lot stronger than them. And that does come into play with diplomacy. If you're weaker than someone and you're offering to confederate them, they're going to look at it and say, well, why would I want to confederate with you? You're weak. This isn't a good deal for me. So they might reject it based on that. Or if you're stronger than them, which you can look at the strength ranks, or you can look at, this is your balance of power. The yellow is you, the red is them. If it's over here, yellow, and then all the way over here, red, so it's like 90% filled in red, they are way stronger than you. They could crush you with a boot if they wanted to. On the flip side, if it's 90% yellow and 10% red, they might be willing to deal with you more likely because they're kind of quote-unquote afraid of your power, or they recognize that you're really powerful, and they might go, well, okay, fine, Eataine's really powerful, I'd rather be on his good side than his bad side, so I'm going to go ahead and make this deal. So that helps influence diplomacy as well. But also, every race has certain traits, or every faction has certain traits. Defensive, more concerned with maintaining borders and expanding them. Conquest is not their business. These factions are less likely to declare wars openly. They might have wars declared on them, but they're less likely, quote-unquote, to declare war. And the reason I say quote-unquote is because this is also affected by the difficulty level sometimes, or at least it seems. So let's just say I'm playing my own campaign on legendary difficulty, and these guys are defensive, quote-unquote, and I'm weaker than them. So I'm my balance of power is right here, and theirs is all the way over here. They might look at me and say, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and stomp Tyrion. I'm tired of him living. I'm just going to go conquer him. So even though they're defensive, they might just go ahead and attack me. So, but generally defensive factions aren't as likely to declare wars than a faction that is aggressive, basically. And then you have Guardian down here. Enemies will not get a foothold upon the homeland. Basically, these guys are more, again, they're more defensive. They're more, they're more interested in defending their homeland than going out and conquering Avalorn, for instance. And they're going to fight tooth and nail to defend their home territory. And then you have Diplomatic. Diplomatic official relations between powers are what really matters. Statecraft is all. This basically means they're more likely to do diplomatic deals with you. There's one, let me show you. And I believe these traits are random. I believe these are random traits. Certain factions can get different traits in the campaigns, I believe. I haven't necessarily looked at this too much, but I believe it is kind of random. And then you have
Guardian of the Phoenix Crown.
Actually, I believe it is random, because I'll explain that in a second. So we have Ardent. Fellow Asur are unimpeachable for the good of the world. Cooperation is the only way. These guys are basically more likely to deal with other High Elves. And let's check.
Can I offer assistance?
No, it's not there.
Queen of Avalon.
No.
Give the
Safari. Okay, this is the one I was looking for. Well, these are the ones I was looking for. Aggressive. Belligerent and warmongering, their armies reach far with little regard for defense. So these guys would actually be more likely to declare war than Tyrannok. They're more interested in, hey, we gotta go conquer territory, we gotta go expand. And so they're more, they're more war hungry, basically. Guardian, it's kind of hard to explain Guardian right after we just said they're aggressive, but they really want to defend their homeland. They really want to defend Ulthuan, basically. They really want to defend, like nobody will get in here, basically. If anyone steps foot on there, they, they smell it in the air and go, oh, Dark Elves are here. Let's go kill them. And then they go declare war on the Dark Elves, essentially. And then you have Wary. The games of court always claim victims. Trusting fellow Asur is foolish. These guys are more likely to not deal with other High Elves. So if we send, and we can look here, Ruler's Tolerance to Eataine gives us +20. War with Cult of Excess gives us +5. But they condemn aversion. They're High Elves and they have aversion towards us. It's because they don't like other High Elves. Like, they'll put up with us, but they don't really like us. They're not, they, put up with us just because, okay, yeah, you're Tyrion, okay, yeah, we'll let you live, but that's about it. And aversion, so they just don't really like us. So, and every faction has traits like that. You have unreliables. Basically, it's, if you sign a treaty with them, don't be surprised if, after you sign a trade agreement with them, they march over here and try to attack Lothern. You can't trust them, essentially. And aggressive, we already covered that.
Avalorn, the Radiant.
Guardian and Diplomatic, we already went over both of those. Scourge of Cain, supremacy. Hegemony over all lands. No treasures, no resources, no realms are out of reach of the Druki. So they, they'll go anywhere and attack, basically. They just want to conquer everything. They want to paint the map their color, basically. Underdog, they are a minor faction. They're Instead of trying to get to the top of the food chain, this one prefers joining a worthy faction in Confederation, so they're a little more likely to confederate with factions of their same race. So obviously we can't confederate with them because they're a different race than us. But if we were Dark Elves, we would be able to demand that they join a confederation with us, and since they're an underdog, they'd be more likely to do it. And then you have Naval Aggressor. These guys, if you're sailing around and they're sailing around, they are more likely to attack you, or if you have a port, they're more likely to attack your port than go inland and try to find softer targets, basically. So that pretty much covers diplomacy. And
Assur Princess.
one last
Welcome.
thing.
What would you have the Assur do?
Or two last things. So we went over payments. We went over, asking for deals and offering money to make it a little more likely. We'll go into this one: join war against. Offer or demand to join a war against a third party. Offering to join a war against a hated party may make a deal more attractive. However, the more they like the third party, the lower chance they'll make a deal. So if we click on join war against, okay, these are the guys they're at war with. They're at war with Sildrator, Bleak Holds, and the Cult of Pleasure. And we're at war with the Cult of Excess, so it shows up as a demand. So we can click on, I want you to join my war against the Cult of Excess. And they're not really likely to do it. But we can click back on here, and, well, let me show you. First, you have to do that if you want to join, if you decide, okay, well, they're not really likely to do it, so let me join one of their wars. So, join war against, tell you what, I'll join your war against the Cult of Pleasure if you join my war against the Cult of Excess. And it's still low. So we decided, okay, well, I really want you to join my war against the Cult of Excess, so I'll also join your war against Bleak Holds. And it's still low. So they're not going for that. I'll join your war against Sildrator too. And it's still low. But in certain cases, or actually, let me just show you an extreme example. So we'll untick these and untick this. So basically, we're offering, hey, I'll join your war against the Cult of Pleasure. And suddenly it goes up to moderate. So they're like, yeah, we might let you join their war. Yeah, maybe. And if we ticked it, if we proposed it, they might actually accept it. Or if we went, well, I don't want to join a war against the Cult of Pleasure, but I want to join a war against Bleak Holds. So, can I? And then, yeah, maybe. And then Sildrator, maybe. And, okay, so I was hoping the chances would be a little bit better, but what you can do is, if, let's just say for the sake of this argument that it actually said likelihood of success was high instead of moderate, then we would be able to add offer or demand. We would be able to, you can actually get money by clicking on payments, demand payment. Hey, I'll join your war against Sildrator, but you got to pay me for it. And then you can haggle your way into declaring a war on a faction for, X amount of gold. The one thing you can't demand in return for a war declaration is a confederation, because if you confederate with them, they technically no longer exist, and they become you, so it wouldn't really work. But you can also ask for, let's say, okay, well, I don't want money in return for joining a war, I actually want a defensive alliance, and it may increase or decrease the chances of that happening. So there's loads of stuff you can do with diplomacy, and one cool way of, or one cool thing you can do in diplomacy is if you do the join war against, and you, let's just say Cult of Pleasure and Bleak Holds were allied together. Let's just say they had a defensive alliance. So, if you declared war on the Cult of Pleasure, you're attacking them, technically. You're the aggressor in this war, so the Bleak Holds would also get called in. But if you offer to join the war against them, what that does is that bypasses their alliance, because you didn't go ahead and attack them or join or attack or declare war on them through diplomacy. What you did was you kind of sidestepped it. You went over to Tyrannok, tapped him on the shoulder, and said, hey, those two Dark Elf factions are allied with each other. I want to attack that one, but not the other one. So can I get into the war with that one? And they said, yeah, sure, why not? Then you would only be at war with Cult of Pleasure. You wouldn't be at war with Soldier Tor, obviously, also. So, yeah, if you have a faction that you really want to declare war on, but they have an ally that you don't want to declare war on, you might want to go about it that way. If that makes any sense. And if it doesn't, please leave a comment. I'd be happy to go into more detail on it. But yeah, I'm trying to explain it the best I can. So let's just cancel that because we don't want to go to war with Cult of Pleasure just yet. And I don't think anybody has any allies. So
Your best.
let's go over the one last thing in diplomacy that I can think of right now. Initiate diplomacy, add offer, demand. Now,
Sit, please.
we have 3 treaties with these guys currently. If we declare war on them, first of all, it tells you, like, if there were allies, it would show, you have allies and they have allies, and then if you click declare war, then it would show, okay, these guys went in, these guys joined the war with you, these guys joined the war against you, and it would, they would play out that way. But we have declaring war while having treaties or shortly after breaking them is considered an act of treachery and is condemned by all factions. If I hit this, all of our reliability goes away. Every last bit of it goes down to very low because we broke 3 treaties and declared war on them. It wasn't like, okay, well, you broke a treaty a few turns ago and then you declared war on them. No, it's you were actively trading with them, you had a non-aggression pact with them and said, okay, yeah, no, we won't attack you, and you had a military access agreement saying, hey, you can run through our territory and we can run through yours, and then you declared war on them anyway. So it's basically like you are the lowest of the low, your reliability is going to go all the way down to the bottom, and it's going to take forever for eventually your reliability can repair itself and go back up to very high. But if you declare war on someone while you have a treaty with them and you do that, then it's going to take longer. For instance, if you do it that way, then if you had a non-aggression pact with them, let it run for 9 turns, and then or you let it run for 10 turns, you cancel it at the 10th turn so you don't incur a reliability penalty for canceling the non-aggression pact, and then normally you'd have to wait 10 turns to declare war, right? But if you only waited 8 turns and declared war, then your reliability would take a little bit of a hit, but it wouldn't drop down all the way down to very low, I don't think. And it also works for if you have, we're going to exit out of that because I don't want to lose all of our reliability. It also works for a peace treaty.
Malevolent law.
If these guys aren't going to accept a peace treaty, obviously. And if you're at war with someone, this is the only thing you can do. You can just ask for peace. That's it. So we're going to offer peace. Let's just say they accepted it, and then we're signing a treaty. We're signing a peace treaty. So if the next turn I decide, you know what, I didn't really want peace after all, I'm going to go attack them, it's the exact same thing. You just declared peace with them, and now you're declaring war on them. It's considered an act of treachery, and you'll lose reliability. So, but if you do it like the turn after you declare peace, your reliability goes all the way down to very low, I believe. If you let it run for 9 turns and then you declare war, it might only go down to high. So, again, try to judge like who you're going to do diplomacy with, who you want to declare war on, who you want to trade with. Try to think ahead. Try to think about what you're going to do, not necessarily just next turn, but 10 turns from now. Like, oh, well, I really want to, once I consolidate Eataine, I really want to attack Safari. So it wouldn't make much sense for me to, this turn, make any agreements with Safari, because then I gotta wait 10 turns for the agreement to, think of it like a cooldown. After you sign an agreement, there's a 10-turn cooldown, and then you can cancel the agreement. And then there's a 10-turn cooldown after you cancel the agreement, and then you can declare war on them. So if you sign an alliance or whatever, and then it takes 20 turns for all that to basically go away, and then you can declare war, if that makes any sense. So, yeah, let's get out of diplomacy, and let's get into technologies, and I promise we will do a few turns after this. Okay, technologies, this is all your different technologies. There's different groupings, and these just tell you, this is what this gives, this is what this gives. You'd have to, in order to get militia training, we have to get Spear Wall first. But in order to get Spear Wall, we have to get military advancements. Military advancements 1, and it takes 1 turn. And there's literally nothing else we can research. So we'll hit military advancements 1. But a cool thing with research is you can queue up different researches. So if we wanted to do Horsemasters, click on Horsemasters, it'll show this will take 1 turn. This takes 5 turns, and then this takes 11, and this is cumulative. So it takes 5 turns in total for us to do this, and then it takes 11 turns in total for us to do this, this, and this, basically. So this will take 1, this will take 4, and this will take 6, essentially, for a total of 11 turns. And then certain technologies require. It requires a building, requires the archive building, and it also requires, hey, you gotta pay up to do this military advancement. This one requires a grant repository, and it also requires more money. Same thing here, requires Dragon Keep and even more money. Trade good advancements, each one of these has a building requirement. You have to have the alchemy workshop for this, and it tells you in green what it gives you, and then on and on and on. And for the trade advancements, to actually unlock all this research, we have to build the Elven Embassy and cough up 2,000 gold. Culture advancements, well, you guys see what it is. This actually requires 2 buildings, Elven Court and Shrine of Assyrian. So we have to build those 2, and then cough up 2,000 gold, and then these don't have a cost, it's just time. So that's, and you can do, like, if you, let's say you look at this and say, well, military advancements 1, none of this really interests me, I really want military advancements 2, you can technically do that. You can technically forget about it and say, okay, well, I'll just build up and build an archive eventually, and then I'll start off on military advancements 2. But, so just take a look at your research and see what sounds good to you. Like, oh, well, I really want my archers to be better, so maybe military advancements 2 would be a good idea. So I'm going to save up and get the buildings required for that. But over here we have archery prowess, reload time reduction plus 15%, so reload 15% faster, basically, for archers and Lothar and Sea Guard units. So they're more effective. They're going to fire faster. They're also going to offload their ammo faster, but that's kind of a good thing sometimes. And, so you might want to get this and then get this. Or you might look at it and say, well, I'm not really that worried about the real-time reduction, and this is the only thing I would want in here anyway, so let's just forget all this and we'll just go right for military advancements too. So, again, you can kind of pick and choose certain things. And we're not going to do this because this is high elf specific, and we're doing a general mechanics guide, so there's no point. This, we'll go into rights. Yeah. Every Warhammer II race, so High Elves, Dark Elves, Skaven, Lizardmen, Tomb Kings also have rights. The Vampire Coast have rights, but those are both DLC races, so you have to buy those race packs. But okay, so for instance, the base game races, High Elves, there are 4 different rights that you can perform: Invocation of Hoeth, Isha, Assyrian, and Vol. And it gives you an idea of here's how much it costs. Here's how long the cooldown. So if you do it, then it runs for 5 turns, the effects, and then after that, it has a 20-turn cooldown. So if you did it on turn 1, you have to wait until turn 26, I believe, for you to do it again. Invocation of Isha, same thing. Cooldown duration is 40 turns, but it lasts for 10. 20 and 5, 30 and 10. And it gives you, here's all the benefits. Experience gained for Archmages, Mages, and Lord Masters of Hoeth. I'll let you guys read all this. So, you might want to, I might want to get more casualty replenishment rate and Untainted, and I don't want to suffer any attrition for my armies, so I'll do the Invocation of Isha. Or, hey, I want influence, construction cost reduction, and public order, so I'll do the Invocation of Assyrian. So, and then down here in red, it gives you, this is the requirements for, hey, if you want to do this, you have to do this. This right cannot be performed. This right will unlock after constructing the archive building. This right unlocks after owning 3 settlements. This right unlocks after reaching rank 5 with your faction leader, which is Tyrion in this case. And this is done after researching 3 technologies. So if you research 3 technologies, you can get Vol, get to level 5 with Tyrion, you can get Assyrian, own 3 settlements, after owning 3 settlements, you can get Isha, and then after we build the archive, we'll get Hoeth. And this right here it's not necessarily High Elf specific. There's a weapon, an item called the Sword of Cain. It's powerful, but we'll go into that probably a little bit later. But this just gives you an idea of, hey, here's who owns it. And in red it says occupy the Shrine of Cain and construct the Shrine of Cain, or the Shrine of the Widowmaker building to unlock it. So you have to occupy that settlement and build that special building. And then it'll say, well, if the sword isn't owned by somebody else, it'll say, hey, do you want the sword? And then you get an option to go, yeah, I want the sword. Or you also get an option to go, nah, I don't really want it right now, no. And we'll go into maybe later on when you should take the sword and when you shouldn't. But for right now, I think you guys have heard me ramble on long enough, so let's get into a battle.
Champion of the Everqueen.
So, here's our army. Tyrion has 8 units. These guys have 9 units. But we're also attacking the settlement. So we're attacking the Shrine of Lycian. If we take a look at their garrison, which if you want to look at the garrison for a settlement, you just click this blue bar with a settlement name in it. So, like Lothern, we were looking at their garrison, and if you just hit that Garrison Details button, it zooms into the region, but you can still see, for instance, if I just hit Lothern and then hit Garrison Details, it shows the garrison details of the entire province. Shrine of Assyrian is a ruin, so it doesn't show any garrison because there isn't any garrison there. Makes sense. Tower of Lycian, though, has 2 Bleak Swords, 2 Dread Spears, and 2 Dark Shards with shields. So they have 6 units there, plus 9 units here. So for a total of 15. And we have 8. If we attack that right now, we would be extremely hard pressed to win it. We probably wouldn't win it at all. So what we're going to do instead is we can open up our recruitment, and this is all the recruitment that we have available. These are all the troops that we have access to right at this very moment due to buildings and all that. We can get archers with light armor, which have, you guys can check out the stats, but they have 19 melee attack, 18 melee defense. These guys have a little bit lower melee defense. You have spearmen, which have a lot higher melee defense, and then you have rangers, which are more anti-infantry. They're more killers than anything. Spearmen tend to just kind of hold the line, and then you have archers, which just shoot arrows at everybody and kill them. So what I'm going to do is, and if you want, this little pin right here, if you click on it, well, let's see. If we don't have it pinned, we scroll over it, and then if we scroll away, it goes away. If you pin it, it doesn't go away. So you can take a look at it. So you can look at, okay, well, here's all of the stats for an archer. Here's an archer light armor, so you can kind of scroll back and forth and go, well, which one do I want? These guys have more armor, but here's how many men are in the unit, and here's the unit size. It's a small entity, it's just men, or elves. And then you have, this is your upkeep cost. Down here is your recruitment cost. So it costs 475 to recruit them, and 59 gold every turn that we own them in upkeep. So if we get 1, 2, 3, it'll take 475 away from our treasury 3 times, however much that is. I think it's like 1425 or something, somewhere around there. Yeah, and if we did, and we've only got 3 recruitment slots in the area, so if we tried to recruit another one, it would take, these will all be done the first turn, and then this would take another turn, an additional turn to recruit, and we don't really want to do that, so let's just forget that. And then we also have global recruitment. Generally, global recruitment, the way it works is if you can recruit something in Lothern, but we also own Port Elistor, which is in a different province, so we don't have access to the same buildings on a local level. But if we're sitting at Port Elistor and we go, and I go, oh crap, I really need another archer. I can pull from global recruitment. It just costs generally about twice as much, roughly, and it will take twice as long. There are certain things that I'll get into later on that can actually reduce this, and can also reduce or increase this, the recruitment duration or recruitment time. But as a general rule of thumb, these guys will take 1 turn. Certain units might take 2 turns in local recruitment and 4 turns in global, but we'll go into that later on. But for right now, like if we wanted more archers, we could also do global recruitment, but we'd run out of money really quickly, so let's not do that. So But
Ready for
now that we've made all of our movements this turn, we're going to go ahead and hit end turn and just watch what happens. So now it runs through all the playable factions first, and then it starts going through the non-playable factions. And then at the end is rogue armies. So yeah, there's all the rogue armies. And we got an event, technology research. We just got done with military advancements 1. Now we're researching light cavalry barding. But maybe I decided over the intern, I don't really want light cavalry barding. I want archery prowess instead. Right now this was clicked. We can just hit archery prowess, and if it had already been researching for 1 turn, it would deduct 1 turn from this, and now it would only take 3. And then we can click on it, and then once archery prowess is done, if we decide, oh well, I really want like cavalry barding after all, I changed my mind and hit it, then it would only take 3 turns after that, because we already invested 1 turn into it, basically. And up here is your research rate. Certain things can either add or subtract to your research rate, so you can either speed it up or slow it down. And then since some research takes money, here's how much money we have. But we're getting, yeah, archery prowess. And now our income went down because we recruited 3 units that each cost 59 gold in upkeep. So our income went down. And since at Lothern we can already build archers and spearmen just by owning Lothern, having the barracks doesn't give me anything except for rangers and archers with light armor. But I don't really want these units, so what I'm going to do is tear down the barracks, and this will provide 600 gold. It'll give me 600 gold back. I believe it gives you about 60% of whatever the building was worth. So if it was worth 1,000, it would give you, and unfortunately it doesn't let me show how much it's worth, but if it cost you 1,000 to build it, you'd get 600 back for destroying it, essentially. And now that we have a stronger army, 11 units versus 15 is a lot better than 8 units versus 15. So let's go ahead and attack this. And we're holding right click. It shows our movement range. This sword is, hey, you're going to go attack this. And before we get into
against the darkness.
That, let's go over stances actually. And then we'll go over this. So if we step out of Lothern, you can't change stances when you're... Actually, no, you can. You can only go into force march when you're inside a settlement. But you can't go into in-camp stance or this one called Lily's Blessing, which is just for high elves. But if we go out...
heir of an area.
And I just realized I kind of screwed up our movement. But it's fine. It's fine. We'll just wait another turn. And so we can go into March stance, which gives us, right now, we can only move up to here. If we go into March stance, suddenly our movement goes all the way up to this. But there's, and like everything else, there's good and bad with doing that. So in the green we have the good. Campaign movement range plus 50%. Sounds really good, right? In the red, recruitment disabled. You cannot recruit when you are in force march stance. Basically, it's your army is running as fast as it can. You don't have the luxury of recruiting anything. If you're in regular stance, you do. Vigor in battle. This affects how, it says you're going to be tired. Anytime you go into a battle, every unit you have, with some exceptions, but for the most part, let's just say every unit you have is going to show up, instead of being fresh and ready to go, they're going to be tired. And they're going to perform worse because of that. Down here, should the army be attacked, retreat will be impossible. If it loses the battle, it will be wiped out. So if we're running by and we force march and we end our stance right here, this army, who we're at war with, can attack us. And if he wins, all this is gone. Doesn't matter if we only lose like half of our spearmen, half of our archers, or whatever. If we lose, that's it. Tyrion's wounded, he's dead, and all these units are dead too. And then battle initiation disabled. You can't fight a battle when you're, well, you can't start a battle when you're in forced march, basically. And then we have ambush stance. This makes it so that this army shouldn't be able to see us, basically. Where, as far as they're concerned, oh, where did Tyrion go? I can't see him anywhere. And campaign movement range required to adopt 25%. So basically, you have to have,
following your orders.
If you want to go into ambush stance, like if you want to move and then go into ambush stance, if we go this far, it tells us in that bar that we're only going to have 20% of our movement left, so we're not going to be able to do that. So we'll have to pull back a little bit. 23%, we're getting there. 27%. Suddenly, we'll actually be able to go into ambush stance. So if we wanted that Dark Elf army to attack Lothern, quote unquote, but we really wanted to catch him in an ambush, we could do it that way and have him basically run into our army, and then we just yell surprise, and then we kill him. But you're hidden until discovered or battle initiated. So if they run into our sphere of influence, this little red region right here, then it starts off a battle. Yeah, so this red region right here. I forgot. This is actually Lothern. This is actually Lothern's sphere of influence. So if someone attacks Tyrion here, Lothern's garrison comes out to help too.
Protector of the Everqueen.
And campaign movement disabled. You can't, if you're in ambush stance, you can't move on the campaign map until you come out of ambush stance. In camp, campaign movement range required to adopt 50%, so it requires a little bit more saved up movement, basically, or more available movement. You have to, it uses up 50% of your movement to encamp. While you're in this stance, you're immune to attrition. Melee defense, all of your units get +5 melee defense and +5 leadership. But you also can't move them on the campaign map when you're in in-camp stance. And then Lily's Blessing, you get experience gained for all spellcasters, yada yada yada. Like I said, you guys can read this if you want to. I've never gone into this stance, but if you want to, you can. And campaign movement range to adopt 25%. So, let's move up to... Actually, I'm going to stand in Lothern, and we're going to recruit 3 archers again. I want a lot more archers, you'll see why in a second. And we'll go ahead and end the turn again. Yeah. And we'll see what these guys do. So, this little thing up here denotes that the army is garrisoned. And then, if it had...
Servant of the king.
Like,
I
up
never
here,
tire.
see how this just appeared on top of Tyrion's banner? This shows you what kind of stance his army is in.
It shall be done.
And he didn't recruit anything. That's
Shield against
interesting.
the darkness.
But let's go ahead and
To
attack
victory.
it. And now we're going to run over there and attack the Tower of Lycium.
Sealed.
So, now we're initiating a battle. We're the attacker. He's the defender. Well, you always show up on the left and the enemy always shows up on the right. These are the forces that he's bringing in. This is his army, which is a fairly substantial army. And then this is and it shows here's Baal Samon. This is the commander, and then it shows Sagales, I don't know. Maybe it's Steven Seagal's little brother or something. But and it shows in brackets Settlement Garrison. This is the forces that are in Tower of Lycian to protect it if he's gone. But he's here, so they're coming to help him out too. So he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 15 units versus our 14. So we're outnumbered. But we also have, we're technically laying siege to this settlement, so it deducts for public order to their settlement if we were going to besiege for a long period of time, which we're not going to, but it's there. And then we also have Replenished Troops. This army has an embedded hero. This noble right here increases the replenishment rate of our army by 8%, more than it normally would. So 8% extra casualties will be replenished after we end the turn and our normal replenishment happens. It'll be increased by 8%. So if we lose, I believe the standard is about 10%, I think. So now our replenishment rate goes up to 18%. So here you can scout the terrain, and it'll tell you, hey, here's what the map is going to look like when it loads. So here's what kind of, we can see some trees, we can see some kind of hilly terrain. You can't zoom in, unfortunately, but you can see like there's kind of some hills here. And so it's not like completely flat ground, but for the most part. And then there's some obstructions here. And then here's our balance of power. This, I believe, is because Tyrion's here, maybe it's giving us a little bit more balance of power, but it's like, I'm not sure. But yeah, here's what our forces are, here's what their forces are. So if we auto-resolved it, we have the option to auto-resolve.
I lust for battle!
Automatically resolve the battle if you have a clear advantage over the enemy. However, you will have a better chance of victory should you fight the battle manually. If I click this right now,
I am ready
our
to
army
fight.
loses. So be very careful.
Bring me battle.
And then here you
there
can fight
is
the
glory
battle.
to be
If
won.
you want to encircle, if you want
hungers.
to lay siege, you hit this.
Oriah.
So we're laying siege to them. If we had an army at Ingerial and it wasn't going to make it unless we force marched it, we might want to lay siege, bring in the other army, and then attack with 2 forces. But we don't, so we're not going to
Kill
do that.
them.
So let's
Alt-1.
click it. We can also retreat, which we don't want to do. We want to kill them.
Bring me battle.
Let's fight it. So yeah, you guys actually get to see a battle after you've heard me ramble for probably 3 hours by now. If we added the first episode and this episode. So, but yeah, now you actually get to see a battle. And it'll give you some information down here too. And allies, it's not really allies, it's just this is the second army that's coming in. This is the garrison force that's coming in. And I didn't realize this, but this is going to be like a 2-hour long video. So, yeah, no, I didn't realize I was going to ramble on for that long. So we'll do this battle, and then we will probably cut it short. And yeah, we'll come back to this later on. So here are all of our archers. Here's Tyrion, and here's the noble. Here's all of our cavalry. Now, our cavalry, we don't really want to put it right up at the front to have it absorb all the charges, because cavalry is generally meant for flanking. So, let's put our cavalry back here, somewhere where they shouldn't actually be able to see it. And then we can do something with them later on. Tyrion and the noble are going to be really tanky, and I'll show you a neat little trick. So we have our white lines of trace. We'll put them on the flanks. We want to have our archers unobstructed so they can fire.
Spearman.
And we'll put our spearmen right on the flanks here. Actually, no, we'll put them right about here. Yeah, we'll put our spearmen here, and then our white lions don't have shields or anything, so if we put them up front, they're just going to get shot. And these guys, you have different options. You can, if you wanted your archers to go into melee for whatever reason, I don't know why you would, but you can click that, and instead of shooting, they'll just run at something and try to attack it with, like, swords. And so if it's lit up, they'll try to melee attack. If it's not, they'll just shoot at something. You can group,
Archers,
which it puts all of your units in a group together. So if you moved them, they would all move together instead of having to do it one at a time. And but I don't want them grouped. Set formation, I've never really done this, but you can set them with, if it would do anything. I haven't really messed around with this, so I'm not going to really get into it because I don't really understand it, but
Archers.
I believe it just, well, it puts them in a group, and then I believe it just sets up a different formation for them. Missile front, yeah, that one. You can play around with it if you want to, but we're not going to. Guard mode is basically, unless these guys are given an order, like if there's a unit right here and we're shooting at it and then it decides, oh my god, run away, run away, run away. If we have guard mode on, they won't pursue that unit. If it's off, they will. They'll run after it and try to get into range and shoot it again. Fire at will, these guys, as soon as something comes into that yellow range of theirs, they'll start shooting at it, and that's what we want. Skirmish mode is, if anything comes too close to this, they'll get scared and start kind of backing off a little bit so they can get back in range and shoot it. Or get to a safe position and then they'll shoot again. But I don't really want them to do that. So let's go ahead and start the battle, and I'll show you guys how to do this really effectively. And up here you can pause the battle, and you can still give orders. Like we can still tell Tyrion, hey, go over there. We can put it in slow motion, which the army will go slower, obviously. Play for normal speed. You can fast forward it, and then you can really fast forward it. But we're going to have Tyrion just run around here and try to... These archers aren't going to do that much damage to him, but they're going to be wasting a lot of their shots. That's what we want. And we can have Tyrion attack. I'm not expecting him to kill all these units, but what I'm expecting him to do is all these units are going to go and say, oh my god, Tyrion's a big threat, we're going to go kill him. And then while they're doing that, our archers can shoot. And same thing with the noble. The AI sees these two units as a bigger threat than our spearmen. So they're sending more units to go after Tyrion than they're sending after our spearmen. And look, that one's already running away. This one's running away. These two are latching onto our spearmen, but our spearmen are going to hold a lot longer than our archers. And right now it says our spearmen are losing the fight, but that's fine. Because their spearmen are about to break too. And we're shooting over the heads of our of our spearmen, which isn't necessarily great, but it's fine. And yeah, these guys are broken still. These guys are coming back, and we're firing into their ranks. We're firing into their backs, basically. So we're doing a lot of damage to them, and they haven't done much damage to us at all.
The Reaper.
But now that these guys are unobstructed, they're going to start firing at Tyrion. So it's time to get Tyrion out of here.
Onward. Moving out.
And
Spearmen.
tell you
Onward.
what, since their melee units are basically
Archers.
done for, let's bring our archers up,
Orders received.
because our archers actually outrange their guys.
Tireless.
And let's get
Noble.
Tyrion and the noble. You guys have done your thing. Good job.
Servant of light.
So I'm done with you for right now. And
White lions.
let's bring our white lions up a little bit.
Understood.
Spearmen, just in case they get,
Heir of Anarian.
just in case they get a wild hair and decide, oh yeah, no, I'm gonna attack. We need to have some kind of front line,
No mercy.
just in case. But I don't
Dauntless.
think it's gonna happen.
Obeying orders.
And
White lions.
yeah, our white lions are just getting ripped apart. Like I said, they don't have any shields or anything, so they're not gonna do that well. Getting shot.
Assar noble.
And
Duty. For Assyrian.
now our cavalry, I don't really want to engage just yet, but I want them to be ready to
Heir
engage.
of Anarian.
Tyrion can do his thing. Let's have the archers start focus firing. I'd rather have you guys hit the dark
We will
shards,
obey.
and then you two hit those dark shards.
Archers.
You three
For
hit those,
Assyrian. Acknowledge.
and you two hit those.
Assyrian
We
winning.
need to start ending this battle. Tyrion's fighting their general, which is good. Now it's telling us, hey, you're about to win. This is your balance of power. The more damage you do to the enemy and the less damage they do to you, this starts going up in your favor. So the more yellow it is, the more you're going to win. The more red it is, things ain't looking so hot for you. And when it fills up all the way, we got victory. But Tyrion took a beating, which isn't necessarily good. But we didn't actually lose any units. And let's go ahead and end the battle, and it'll tell us what kind of victory we got. So, we got a close victory. Basically, you won, but it could have gone either way. It could have, you either could have won the battle or lost it, basically. And the reason it was considered a close victory is because so many of our army was archers, which look at how many kills they got. Just look at how many kills they got. Tyrion got a few. He got a few. White Lions actually didn't do too badly. The spearmen didn't do very much. The archers basically killed everything for us. But because our army is a lot of archers, their ammunition, how much ammo they have, contributes to how much it shows how much they contribute to the battle. And once they're out of ammo, they're essentially useless, right? Whereas the melee units, the more of them that get killed, then their contribution to the balance of power goes down, because they're not as effective, because instead of having 100 of them alive, now there's only 20 of them alive. Whereas the archers, this unit might not have even been touched yet, but it also doesn't have any ammo left, so it can't do, as far as the game is concerned, it can't do any damage. Basically, it's done. It's, you might as well not even have that unit on the battlefield anymore. So, because we used up so much of our killing potential, that's why we got a close victory. Because the game's like, well, you won, but these guys didn't have a whole lot of ammo left, so there wasn't much. I mean, what could you have done after that? Send in Tyrion? He's almost dead. Send in the noble? He's only one guy. Send in these guys are almost half dead. These guys, they're not going to do much. You could only send in your cavalry and chariots, and then they still had all these guys, which they wouldn't do very much, but you know, because same thing applies for them. The more ammo they use up, the more balance of power contribution they're losing, which is why at the beginning of the battle I was sending Tyrion running up ahead of the army. I was trying to get them to shoot at Tyrion, miss Tyrion, and just waste their ammo, so they couldn't shoot our guys, which kind of worked. And Tyrion is a really good, strong fighter. He's really tanky, so he can take quite a bit of a beating. So look, we lost 130. They lost more than 10 times as much as us. Just by doing that, just by focusing on, you know, units that can kill versus units that don't. So you don't have to do it that way. You don't. I just think it's more effective. I think it's, you know, better to have units that can kill 100 men than a lot of units that can kill 40. I mean, they would have killed more if we had let them fight a little bit more, but these guys basically are there to just kind of keep the enemy in place while these guys shoot them. So let's go ahead and accept the battle, the conditions, or what happened. And now we have different options. You can either occupy it, which
We have captured it.
There's a conquest penalty. Basically, it lowers the public order in the province by 10 because, hey, someone new is owning the joint now.
This place
And
is ours.
Provincial Instability. This means that for 3 turns, basically, this is the public order penalty that will be applied to the province, deteriorating at 1 point per turn. So it's -3, so it's only going to apply for 3 turns. Basically, it's like, well, they just took over. We're not so sure how this is going to go. We're a little bit, you know, unsure. That's essentially
We have
what that
captured
means.
it.
And that's
This
just what happens
place
if we
is
occupy it.
ours.
Now, if we loot and occupy it, we're damaging the settlement. So there's
Claim
going to be a lot
anything of
bigger
value.
conquest penalty, more provincial instability, because people are like, hey, why did you just tear down all of our buildings, dude?
Take what is
But we
rightfully
get money
ours.
for taking it.
To the
And
victor,
then we
the
get
spoils.
19% of our units replenished. Now, if we sack
Search
it,
this
we
place.
don't actually take the settlement. We lower its
Take
public
it all.
We lower its public order by 10. We get a lot of money,
Take
and
what
we
you
get a lot of
can.
replenishment. Same amount of replenishment. from
Claim
looting
anything
occupy.
of value.
Or we can burn it down
Raze
and make
it to the
435 gold. I don't really recommend raising a settlement unless it's somewhere that you know you're not going to want to hold, and it's just a faction that you want to go ahead and hurt them. Then yeah, you can blow it up. And it also,
Destroy everything.
once you blow it up, you can't move. So be very careful with that. Sacking it, it soaks up a little bit of your movement, so you can still run away. But like I said, be careful. It's going to take away some of your movement.
Search this place.
Loot and occupy, we just occupy the settlement.
Occupy
So
this place.
let's go ahead and occupy it.
No mercy. Heir of an
And see, our income went up a little bit. And we also got money from winning the battle. And since this guy was garrisoned inside the settlement, he's dead. He's gone. And
What orders?
that little tick right here means Tyrion, or someone got a level. In this case, it was Tyrion and the noble. So let's give him, before this was a 1, now it's a 2. So let's click on that. And this shows all of Tyrion's skills. I'm not really going to go into it because it's all just, this is all for Tyrion specifically. I'll probably go into it when I do like high elf specific videos or something like that. But for right now, we can get sword player, give him some more melee attack, charge bonus, and damage. Inspiring presence, he'll just give the units around him more leadership. Or we can give him route marcher. It's a campaign ability that gives him extra campaign movement range, so he'll be able to move around farther. So he'll be able to get to settlements faster. And I'd rather get that first, rather than giving my guys a little bit more leadership or myself a little more melee attack. This isn't quite as important as this is, because I'd rather get around faster than hit things with a little more chance of actually hitting them. and doing a little bit more damage. So, points been distributed, and if you're unsure about, like, well, I got Route Marcher, well, I'm not sure if I really want to do that. If you hit this button here, and you have to have just put in the points and not gotten out of the menu. If you hit this button, it's basically never mind button. It's an undo button basically. But like I said, you cannot have clicked out of this, and I'll show you in a second. So skill points, we got our skill point back. So if I wanted Inspiring Presence, but I'm not sure if I want that, it goes back. And then Sword Player, I'm not sure if I want that. I don't. So we're gonna go Route Marcher, and then we're gonna hit. This accepts the changes basically. But if I did that and then I go, well, actually wait, nope, can't do that. There's no this. If you exit out, if you say, if you hit this check mark, it's done. You can't go back and respec them. There are certain mods that allow you to, but in a vanilla game, once you hit that, it's done. And it goes for lords and heroes. So right now he's got a skill point. If I wanted, I actually want Replenished Troops. Replenishment rate is increased by an additional 3%. That adds on to his 8% that he already gives. So it'll go up to 11%. So let's hit that. And then we'll check it, because that's actually what I want. But if I decide, yeah.
Defender of Elf 1.
Yeah, see, now it's 11%. It's, you have to click off the army and then click back onto the army for it to, it doesn't automatically update. You have to like manually refresh it basically. But then I decide, oh well, I'm not sure if I, nope, can't respec it. Once it's done, it's done. And then so he already got 3%. These guys are actually locked until he gets to a certain level, available at rank 5. So basically for the next 3 levels, or for the next 2 levels, we have to pick something else. We can increase trade a little bit, we can secure influence if we do an action. We can assassinate, we can make him a better assassin. We can assault units, make him, hurt armies, or we can make him a specialist. Whenever he does something, he'll have a 1% extra chance of doing it, and it'll be 10% cheaper. All the way up to 40% cheaper and 6% better chance. Or we can increase his melee stats, make him a better fighter, give him, we can't do that until rank 10, can't do that until rank 7, rank 12, rank 12, rank 4. And,
ready to
but,
serve.
So now these guys are replenishing a lot faster. And this right here, Regiments of Renown are, they come out at unit rank 9, which is extra experience. Basically, they're just, these are really good versions of normal units. So the Scions of Mathlan are really good versions of Spearmen. Like they have 10 more melee defense, some more melee attack, but their Spearmen are not really killers. But, they'll do something. Charge bonus is the same, leadership is higher, their armor is the same, but they're also more expensive. And up here, it denotes, this unit will unlock after one of your lords reaches the required rank. And you can only get one at a time. Well, you can only get one of each, basically. So like at rank 10, you can unlock these 2, and you can recruit them, but you can only have one at a time. And after you disband it, you have to wait, I believe it's 10 turns before you can recruit it again. So I'd advise use these in like an oh crap scenario, like we're about to be attacked, I have to recruit an army in a hurry, and one of my lords has gotten up to rank 30, so I can unlock all of these guys. Well, I normally wouldn't do this, but and I'll just recruit all of these guys and have them try to defend the settlement in a hurry. So you can try to do that, but we're not going to.
Ulf One's defender.
And we'll get some more archers. And now, Lothern, since we tore down the barracks, that little hammer is back, and it shows we have a free build slot. So we're going to take a look at what can we build. Can't build that because it's grayed out, because we don't have Lothern built up to tier 5 yet. This just shows you, this unlocks the tier 5. We can build a barracks back for 1,000 gold, but we just tore it down. Can't build any of this until we get to tier 3. Can't build this until we get to tier 3, and normally I don't build this anyway. It just helps out, like, if you have an area with a lot of corruption, and you're worried about Skaven, which is another race, you might want to build that just to kind of help out, but I normally don't build it. But up here, we can get a homestead for 500 gold, gives us growth, extra growth, so this will fill up faster, and we can get more growth points so we can upgrade Lothern again. And it also gives casualty replenishment rate plus 3%. So this army, the base percentage I believe was 10, and then with our hero it goes up to 11, so there's 21%, and then with this it goes up to 3%. So our army would replenish 24% faster, or would replenish 24% of its casualties per turn, or of its unit strength per turn. So it'll replenish really
Champions
fast.
of the Everqueen.
So these guys, it only takes 2 turns to replenish, and it's going to replenish 27 units per turn. So, yeah. And, or if we wanted to, we could get, this gives us income generated plus 100, or income generated 100. Elven trinkets resource production 6 chests. So we have a trade agreement with Tiranoc. So it would give us 6 chests of elven trinkets to basically send over to them, and they'll pay us for them. So if you have trade agreements, building a trade resource can, make you money, because then you can actually trade them that resource. Or if we wanted to, we could build a plaza, which will give us a little bit of money, 60, and it will also help us maintain public order in the province by 2. And then it builds up all the way up here up to 12 and makes us 240 gold at the max tier. So I think right now we're going to go with a homestead, because I'd rather get Lothern built up as fast as possible. And we're recruiting an army. I normally don't focus a lot on melee troops. On lower difficulties you can get more of a melee front line. I'm just used to getting as little melee as I can and having these guys just get all the enemy melee units to latch onto them so we can shoot them. So these guys do most of the damage, these guys just kind of stand by and protect them. And then these guys we'll probably get rid of eventually, because this guy's really expensive, this one's not that bad. And let's end the turn. So we'll play for a little bit longer. I want to get rid of that Dark Elf faction, and then we'll probably end it here. Okay, these guys just got whooped by their war with the Dread Fleet, and their balance of power strength is nothing. So if I had to guess, they probably just got their army beaten up by the Dread Fleet. So they want okay. The reason they're asking for this is because the Dread Fleet's down here. They want to go attack us, but they don't have any ports, so they would have to go through our territory to go get them, basically. Which would be stupid right now because they don't have any forces, but they're going to plan on building some to go take him. So they want to come through our territory without peeving us off, basically. So I'm thinking, yeah, maybe I can counter offer, like, hey, I want to ask for something, and it gives us likelihood of success is moderate. Now, if this was high, I could actually ask for, I could tell them, hey, I'm willing to give you this, but you got to pay up too. You got to pay me 300 gold, and then I'll give you military access, and you give me military access. And now we'll propose it. And then they counter offered again with, hey, we'll give you a trade agreement, but I don't really like that deal. So, although I actually kind of do. So they gave me an offer that, hey, you're going to make money, we're going to make a little bit of money, so let's do this. And now they accept it. And then, since they initiated the diplomacy, hitting that check mark ends it. That's it. Now, it closes the diplomacy menu with them. If we were doing diplomacy,
Defender of the Phoenix, a dignified
like
visitor,
Illyrian,
such a rare treat.
Or actually, wait, no. I don't usually make deals with Illyrian. You'll see why. But we just made a deal with Cavalry.
service.
So,
All are given a
let's,
fair hearing
hey,
in the Phoenix
I'll give
court.
you military access.
Most
Proposed.
astute.
They accepted it, and since I was the one that initiated it, it still shows, like, hey, you can still do some diplomacy. You can either exit out of Calidor and go with something else, or you can get something else with Calidor. But I don't want to get anything else, so let's cancel that. And there's a reason I'm dealing with Calidor right now, which I'll explain later on.
Ever
So,
loyal.
Shrine of Assyrian is no longer a ruin because these guys occupied it. And I'll explain why occupying ruins, why you want to let your enemy do that, is because when you have an army and you click on a ruin, and it gives you an option to colonize it, it gives you an option to colonize the ruin, what it's going to do is it will cost a certain amount of money, but it also costs a certain amount of troops if you're doing it with an army. And so basically it's like your army is damaged by doing that. So what happened,
No.
this army is probably at half strength right about now. So they're a lot weaker, so I can go fight that army and beat it up a lot easier than if it was just at full strength.
Shield of Alaria.
Tyrion, I'm going to have him recruit archers. So yeah, we're going to go with mostly archers in Tyrion's army. It seems stupid, but it's really effective. But yeah, no, so this army is actually damaged, having taken the Shrine of Assyrian. So we're going to take the Engerial next turn. There's another army. Grom. That stupid ugly green skin, that ugly goblin. And but for the most part, if you can avoid it, I don't really recommend occupying ruins unless you have to. If you have to, and you don't think you're going to be attacked by the time that your army replenishes, it's okay. But if you're in an area where, like, say we're at war with Cult of Excess, if we occupied it and they had a full army here, they could attack us and have a lot easier time of killing us off. So this weakens you. This makes your army a lot weaker by doing that. So this was actually kind of stupid of them, but I understand why they did it, because they just lost one settlement. And Tyrion's recruiting. Let's go back to Lothern. Our main chain building has been built up to level 2 now. So, and we're making plenty of money. So I'm going to go ahead and upgrade the growth building, build it up to from a homestead to a manor. And then we're going to go ahead and build... This would unlock the recruitment of a noble, but we already have one. So it's not going to help us. This one increases hero capacity for nobles, so we would be able to have 2. but we can't build that yet because it needs rank 4 Lothern, the main settlement. So, and it gives various bonuses, various other bonuses too. But for right now, I'm going to build the Elven Craftsman and the Plaza. Mainly for the money. The public order is nice, but it's not that big of a deal. And we're going to go ahead and end the turn. And then, yeah, we'll probably kill off this faction.
Welcome.
And
What brings you
then
here?
we'll probably end the video. These guys want a trade agreement, but I don't really want to make any agreements with them, and I'll tell you why. Well, right now. Normally, when I'm doing a high elf campaign, right, there are certain factions that I want to deal with, and there are certain factions that I don't want to deal with. And like I said earlier, when it comes to diplomacy, if we sign an agreement with Illyrian, for instance, let's just say a trade agreement, which was what he was asking for. We sign it on turn 5, right? Until turn 15, we can't back out of that. And then, once we back out of it on turn 15, we cannot do any declaration of war with him until turn 25. So it sets us back 20 turns for, what was it, 57 gold? Is that really worth it? When I could take over his territory and make, well, 45 and then 395. So 57 gold, is it really worth, you know, depriving myself of 440 gold as the settlements are right now? I mean, he's going to build them up. So, you know, you have to kind of gauge, you know, is this a good deal for me, or should I not sign it and just, you know, let him build up the territory a little bit and then just go take it off of him.
Your orders?
And this will build up by next turn. And like I said, that army is now damaged. It's replenishing, but it is damaged from taking the Shrine of Assyrian. They recruited some extra troops. They probably merged and then recruited, but yeah, they're damaged. They are weaker for having occupied the Shrine of Assyrian.
Orion.
So much so that it lowered their balance of power, and we could auto-resolve this if we wanted to, which I'm not going to because our units will take a lot more damage than if we fought this manually. And these guys are going to be kind of annoying.
There is glory to be won.
But we have enough archers that we should be able to shoot them and get rid of them. However, this unit right here, the Shades, I don't know why it's not letting me mouse over them. It keeps saying Dread Spears. But these guys are actually kind of dangerous, but our archers should outrange them. So they're not as dangerous as they can be. But the reason they're dangerous is because these units have an attribute called Stalk. Basically, you cannot see them until they get up to a certain distance away, and then all of a sudden, surprise, there they are, they're shooting at you. So you can't see them until they shoot, or if you get close enough to them and they haven't shot yet. But the second they shoot, the jig is up. So,
It will be done.
but let's go ahead and set up my archers. I'm just going to do a basic line. And same thing, set up our, set up our spearmen right here. Basically just like we did last time. And the cavalry, I'm going to put them all over here this time. Tyrion and the noble will go up here. And their armies showing up right here.
Forward.
Let's see if we can, they're marching at us because our army is stronger than them, so they're at a disadvantage, so they're just trying to close the distance faster at us. And there are the Shades. There's that one unit I was talking about. And Tyrion's taking a little bit of damage, but not as much as he normally would. But not as much as some of our other units would. And we're getting rid of their Black Arc Corsair handbows. So we're making their army rout at almost no cost to us. the Harpies didn't even get a chance to attack us.
Noble! Advance!
The Noble needs to get over here. White Lions, they could probably fight Dread Spears, that's fine. Tyrion's actually losing the combat, but he's not taking very much damage. And we're inflicting more damage on them than they are on Tyrion. So, even though Tyrion's losing, technically, it's fine. And now he's actually beating them.
Noble Lord! Excellent!
And
Archers!
you guys need to hit the shades.
Attack!
And now my Dread Spears are hitting Cavalry, which isn't going to be very good for them. But they're doing okay. Let's send my Chariots over here, though, to help out. Because the Chariots are anti-infantry, so they're going to do quite a bit of damage, but we don't want to keep the Chariots in combat, and I forgot to do this. Let's put my guys on guard mode so they don't, break the formation to go run after somebody. And all these missile units are now going to start shooting at Tyrion, so we need to pull him back.
Going forth! Battle call!
And these guys are actually beating.
Order! For duty!
I'm not used to seeing them beating Dread Spears and Bleak Swords, because normally I play on a different difficulty setting, and these guys aren't that good on that difficulty setting. But hey, they're actually not doing that bad. And the battle will be over in just a second. And I would be doing a lot better, but it's just kind of distracting for me to be giving commentary while I'm fighting. So yeah, I would normally be doing a lot better. Like I said, it's just I'm not, because I'm trying to focus on the battle and giving commentary and giving advice basically. So yeah, it's just kind of hard for me to do that. But that's fine. And we just got the army loss penalty. A way to know when, because if you can't see the balance of power for whatever reason, if you're looking at the enemy and they have their leadership's kind of going down a little bit, kind of going down a little bit, kind of going down a little bit, and then all of a sudden it just goes drops down to nothing, then you've pretty much inflicted the army loss penalty. Like, if that happens across this unit, that unit, across all the enemy units at once, it just goes from, 50, 70, 80, and then just goes down to 0. Yeah, the enemy just gave up. You just won the battle. And then at that point, all you have to worry about is units that might be unbreakable. So let's go to end the battle. And this time we got a decisive victory. And the reason we got a decisive victory is because Tyrion, the Noble took a little bit, the White Lions took a little bit, the Spearmen took a little bit, and the Silver Helms took a little bit of damage. Everything else is perfectly fine. Our archers actually got, this line here got, these 6 units got some experience, which I'll explain in a second. But we didn't use that much ammo up, so we could have kept killing them even if they sent more at us, basically. And we didn't take that much damage. They took a lot more damage than us because the garrison gets wiped out no matter what if they lose, because it's a siege. And if the army is garrisoned, it's gone. So, but if it was standing outside the settlement, then we'd have to fight it twice. But, so we only lost 55. They lost 1,217. So yeah, we did way better at killing them than they did at killing us. And we accepted. We're going to occupy it.
Protector.
Our income went up. And at the end of every battle, you get a chance to get certain items. Or you can get certain followers, which I'll go over in a second. But in this case, we got a potion of healing, which gives regeneration. Well, it just gives you extra hit. It just restores more hit points. Effects restores up to 1,584 hit points. So if Tyrion starts the battle at full health, right, and takes 1,500 hit point damage, and he pops this, he goes back up to full health over time, if he doesn't take any damage after that. So getting items is really good, obviously. Well, depending on what item it is. And Tyrion also got a level up. So let's accept that. And since we own 3 settlements now, we unlock the right of the invocation of Isha. So let's accept that.
Alario's champion.
Tyrion gets another level up, and let's go take a look at what we have. Iron Disciplinarian increases public order in the local province. However much of the province that we own. We own 3 settlements in the province, so it'll increase the public order effect, the public order in that area of the province by 1. Merchant Lord, on a faction-wide basis, now you make more tradable resources, which right now we're not making that many, so it wouldn't make that big of a difference. Bonded service, recruitment cost minus 3% for the Lord's army. Lord's army being in brackets. Basically, it's cheaper to recruit units in his army now if he has that skill. And then you have Wary, which is enemy hero action success chance minus 3%, so it's harder for enemies or enemy agents to do actions on his army or on Tyrion than it normally would be if he didn't have that skill. And underneath it, ambush defense chance, Lord's army, plus 8%. That is really good because as high elves, yeah, you don't want to be ambushed, especially if you have a lot of archers in your army, because the enemy gets a jump on you, and they can get into melee with your archers immediately, or almost immediately. So your archers won't have time to set up battle lines and start shooting. It's just, as soon as the battle starts, the enemy's there already, and they're already killing you. So that's bad. So I'm gonna go for this. I mean, you can go for whatever you want. I'm just gonna go for Wary because I don't want to get ambushed. And Tyra. Yeah, I think we agreed that it was Tyra last time, because Tyra is obviously a female name. Let's go ahead and distribute his point. And let's give him, I normally wouldn't do this, but I'm going to give him Weapon Master. Normally I would go for Secure Influence because I would have him do certain actions, but this is a generic video, not a high elf specific video, so I'm going to treat him like he was a regular, just a generic hero and not a high elf hero, if that makes any sense. And Hawthorne's building up still. Our army will be replenished by next turn. Will be replenished in full. Well, Tyrion won't, but he's also got a push with healing, so it's fine. And the Shrine of Assyrian, they haven't built anything yet. They're still they're probably building something, but
I am in a black
and if you double click on a faction,
I would advise.
well, let me show you. Okay, if you're looking at a faction and you don't want to scroll all the way over here to enter diplomacy with them, if you want to do a shortcut, just double click, double left click. So blip, blip.
There is little you can say that will improve.
They
my
greet you. They don't like you, so they're not going to greet you very warmly. But here we can see their balance of power strength. They have nothing. So we add offer demand. They're actually down for peace treaty. And it's showing a green likelihood of success. So if we wanted to, there's a high likelihood of success. So what we could do is add offer demand. We could offer, they won't get a non-aggression pact with us because, let's face it, they hate us. So they won't do that. But what we could do is get payments, demand payment from them, 300 gold. They're still down for it. So we could click on that again, go over a little bit more to 500. They're still down for it. We could increase it more. They're still down for 700, 900. They're still down for it. All the way over to 1500. They're still down for it. Boop, 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 boop. 2000. It goes down to moderate. But I'm not sure if it just turned moderate or if it was moderate before. So let's go back down to 1800, and it goes back down to moderate, and it's still moderate, I mean. So they would probably take it to 1800. Let's go down to 1600. Okay, now it's high. So we know that they're totally down for 1600. if we go up to 1800, they're kind of down for it. And then if you ask for 2000, now you're kind of like, okay, yeah, they might take it, but now you're starting to kind of ask for a little bit too much, maybe, if that makes any sense. So what I normally do is if I want to get money out of somebody and I want to offer them a diplomatic deal that has a likelihood of success chance of high, I'll start off with maybe asking for a little bit of money and then slowly go up until that changes from a high success chance to moderate. And then once it hits moderate, then accept it. So it's just on the cusp of, it used to be high, but now it's moderate. So, and that's how you kind of gauge it, by just going up or down. But I don't want a peace treaty because, first of all, haven't been at war with them for too long. It's actually going to lower my reliability. So it's not really worth that 2,000 gold. And I also want the Shrine of Assyrian. So I would rather own every settlement in the province and kill these guys off than get a peace treaty with them. So, no deal. Cancel, and we'll end the turn. So yeah, we're going to kill them off next turn. And Altharian wants to talk to us. So what does he want? He's demanding we pay him 100 gold for military access. But here's the thing, we're way stronger than him, so I'm going to counteroffer and basically tell him, yeah, I'll give you military access, but I'm not going to pay for it. So either you accept this or don't. And he accepted it anyway. So he was just trying to extort us. So I would say don't let the AI extort you, but extort the AI like crazy. Extort the AI for every little bit you can get away with. See, these guys are trying the same thing. I'll give you a non-aggression pact, but I'm not paying for it.
I will hear your words,
And
but I make no promises of aid.
These guys, I normally declare war on them, so no agreements with them, absolutely, whatsoever. Because again, if I sign an agreement, it would tie us to that agreement and the effects of that agreement for 20 turns, basically. And here we have a dilemma. It offers you a few different choices with some penalties and rewards. So, it has been discovered that the Keeper of the Seal, who controls the officiating of all documents within the Mark of Lothern, has been abusing his position, using the seal on menial personal documents to enhance his power and prestige. Exposing him would condemn the man, but perhaps there are ways this can be worked to the king's advantage. So if we exposed him publicly and said, hey, you're, doing something wrong, we would get 30 influence, which is the special high elf currency, but we would lose 5 public order faction-wide. Demand they are sealed in the royal presence, so, you're just getting a little different, like, you're still getting some influence, and then campaign movement range. Tyrion's not going to be able to move as far, which is usually pretty bad. Replace him, we'd still get some influence, and then since we're replacing him, we're basically paying for his replacement, which is going to deduct 750 gold from our treasury. Or we can do nothing, which would, if we had influence, we could spend influence basically to get 5 extra public order faction wide for 5 turns, and it'll tell you turns remaining 5. This is just a one-time thing. These are for 5 turns, and then you get this. It's just a one-time payment, but you have to deal with this for 5 turns. This is just one-time payment, 5 turns of this to get this instantly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put up with a little bit of negative public order and expose him publicly for 30 influence. And again, you kind of have to gauge it, based on, like, we still have 1 extra public order here. It's mainly because Tyrion's sitting in the settlement, but we still do. And we can build up, we have a choice of building up either Tower of Lycian or Angerial. Now, when you build up the settlement, you're going to get more garrison in the city. And then eventually, once you build it up to tier 3, you can max out the garrison size, and I'll show you guys about that. But typically, Tower of Lycian is right over here, right? If we get attacked by somebody when it's at tier 1, we're going to have less of a chance of defending it with 3 spearmen or 2 archers than we are if we have 1 Illyrian Reaver archers, 3 spearmen, and 2 archers. Not much of a better chance, but a little better chance nonetheless. So what I kind of want to do is upgrade Tower of Lycian. The reason I want to do that is because Tyrion's over here. If someone attacks Angerial, they also have to fight Tyrion. If they attack Tower of Lycian, they're only fighting the garrison. So just take a look at, what settlements can be upgraded and, how defensible they are and all of that before you decide, okay, to upgrade one settlement over the other. Like, if one is in more of kind of like a precarious position, you might want to get that one done before the one that's better protected. And let's go ahead and kill off the Shrine of Assyrian, or capture it, I mean. And in this case, the balance of power is way over here, so I feel like auto-resolve is fine. And we took a lot more damage than we probably normally would if we fought it manually, but that's still fine. And we got money for winning the battle. Tyrion got a level up. And good stuff.
We have captured it. Protector of the
And she got killed in battle. And province secured. We own all the settlements in Lothar, or in Eataine now. Click on that. Faction destroyed. We killed off the Cult of Excess. So our war with them is over. Tyrion gets a level up. Let's put another point into Wary. So we'll have 16% less chance of getting ambushed, and 8% less chance of enemy heroes doing actions against us. Yeah. And Teyra got a level up. He still can't get that until rank 5, but now he can get... Okay, Shrine of Assyrian gives us plus 5% speed and 3 extra melee defense, and this gives us 3 extra melee defense. So this is a little bit better. He'll move a little faster and he'll be a little bit tankier, so let's get that. Because we're using Teyra and Tyrion right now as tanks, basically. And the Shrine of Assyrian, they either tried building something and it didn't finish, or they built something but we couldn't convert it to our own type of building. So now we have a free construction slot. So let's get, we only have a few different options. We have a barracks, which we don't really need. We have the Sacred Flame of Assyrian, which I believe we need that for our victory conditions. But we can build it in this building slot, or the slot that will be opened when this gets to tier 3. So instead of focusing on that right now, because we're not going to win the campaign just by building that, I'm going to go ahead and build a growth building so we can get this higher. So we can get this number, this growth per turn, higher. Basically, we want to be developing Eataine, the province, at super mega ultra speed. So now we can upgrade a colonnade, and we can upgrade to an elven artisan and get more money in public order. And then now we have another research slot available. So let's open it up and let's see what we get. Naval discipline, we don't have any of these units, but it won't just affect units in our army. This will also affect units in our garrison, which Lotharn's garrison has Lotharn Seaguard. So let's go ahead and get that. That way if we get attacked, they'll be a little bit better. And now we have a commandment that we can issue. So you can either click on that, or just click on the province, click on commandments, and go all the way up. I usually go for Rebuild Lost Splendor, so it's cheaper to build buildings and we get extra growth. And let's end the turn, and
Now that you are here, you'll hear your word.
Eltharion wants to deal with us now. So he's going to get a little better deal out of this, but we're still going to get something. So, yeah, that's fine. Let's take it. And we want to be buddy-buddy with him, because eventually we want to confederate his faction. And the more deals we make with factions, the more they're going to like us, the more likely it is that they're actually going to confederate with us. And we have some constructions that we can do. Since we're focusing so much on growth, we're getting so much growth every single, like almost every single turn. We're getting so much growth, and we're still making a lot of money, so that we can just build this up really rapidly. And now we can build up the Shrine of Assyrian, or we could build up Angerial. Either one is technically correct. Port Elistor, if Safari decides to attack us, they'll probably attack it in Angerial first. So, because Tyrion's still sitting in the Shrine of Assyria. So, they'll probably attack Angerial first. Again, do kind of like a pick and choose, just decide based on what your what your strategic situation is. If you're sitting at Tower of Lycian and you can build up Angerial, probably go for that, because if anything attacks you at Tower of Lycian, they have to deal with you too. Whereas here they don't. So just kind of pick and choose which one you want to go for. But having said that, I think we're going to end the video here, because I didn't realize we were going for 3 hours. So I'm going to go ahead and save. And we have the tutorial campaign. So we'll click save, overwrite file, are you sure? Yes. But yeah, no, I want to thank everybody for listening to me. I'm sorry it was a bit long-winded. Like I said, Warhammer 2 can be a bit, it can be a bit complex. But now that we've kind of explained all the general stuff, these guides should get a little bit faster and a little bit more, like, I think the main reason I'm taking so long is because I want to make sure everything's explained really well, so that you don't get into a campaign and go, oh my god, why didn't he tell me this? So, but like I said, if you guys have any questions, comments, suggestions, I'm always looking for feedback. Let me know. Let me know in the comments. If you liked it, give the comment, give the video a like. If you're liking the content, you know, I hope you guys subscribe. So, because the more subscribers we get, the more likes we get, the more views we get, the more, you know, it'll definitely help the channel out. So, if you guys like the content, show me how much you like it. So, we will see you guys later on. Thanks, guys. Take it easy.